Bless you. All right, we're getting live. We're getting there. Hit the like, share the show, everybody. We'll be up in just a moment. All right. This one goes out to the Pope. Only God is made. All right.
Right, here it comes. I knew this was happening.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? Bless you. We made you sneeze by. Yeah. All right. All right, we're gonna jump straight in the show. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hit the like, share the show if you would. Hi, chat room, greatest chat room in the history of chat rooms. Welcome to the greatest live stream in the history of live streams. There's the Venmo, Hellsparks on Patreon. You can help the show however you want, or you could just sit back and go. The world is burning up around me. Therefore, I'm putting my feet up and I'm just going to enjoy the company of people who can explain it to me and help me feel a little bit better about it, including my beloved guest this morning, the sniffly, if not genius.
I apologize for that.
That's right. Cliff Schechter joining me this morning. How are you, sir?
Other than these freaking allergies, I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Considering I operate on that stoic optimism attitude that I have,
right.
And I gotta say, as a methodology, it's holding up.
It is. I have to say, I can think of like a few people.
Mm-hmm.
Your stoic optimism and my I call mine cautious optimism,
mm-hmm.
is doing better than. For example, we're doing better than Viktor Orban.
Yeah,
we're doing better than JD Vance, who.
Oh man.
I would actually raise and pay money for him to go out and personally give speeches next to and endorse every House and Senate Republican.
Absolutely. And he probably is going to. He probably will. That's the thing. Trump's not going to go out and do it. Yeah, he totally is.
Donald Trump, he's your secret weapon. Send him out.
But the kind of secret weapon that like a white supremacist builds in his garage that blows his hands off.
I was going to say, right. It ends up blowing up on you, and then you just hooks the rest of your life and you can't really eat dinner.
What's the point of having a doomsday device if you don't tell the world, Right? That's yeah. It'll be.
Can I ask you a question, Hal?
Yeah.
I can't see you right now.
Oh, sorry. 1 second. Bink. There you go. Is that better?
Oh, awesome. Well, I mean,
sorry.
Listen, I've done audio before and whatever.
Yeah, man.
So I could do it, but it's always better. I like.
It is better. It's more of a connection. It's more of a connection. Yeah. Sure.
I feel connected to you.
Yes. So you front loaded us a bunch because there's so many parts to cover. We'll get to foreign affairs, but my question right out of the gate for you, Cliff Schechter.
Yes, sir.
Currently sitting in Ohio, but basically mega worldwide at this very moment, thanks to the greatest live stream in the history of live streams, to produce myself. Who does Donald Trump hate more? The terrorist regime in Iran or the Pope? Or Tucker Carlson and the Pope? Or Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, who are Catholic, and the Pope?
You could go on for a long list there, but... the way I'm going to just bring this up because the intonation of your voice there. I know that you do you've done stand-up stuff with Tom Arnold.
Yes.
And it sounded like, who does number 2 work for?
That's right. You tell that thing who's boss. We'll get through this, buddy. Right.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, you bite down on something, you show that turd.
Who's boss, right. It's like Tom Arnold doing a really bad Larry King, which is kind of what he's doing. Most of the time.
It's just the way, yeah, he is. But the way the tone, it made me think of that. Now your question, who does Donald Trump hate the worst? I'm going to go with Melania.
Wow. Okay. Well, then it's so
I
it's
don't think they wanted Melania to say what she was going to say. I think they knew. Obviously, they knew she was going to get up there. They knew
right.
she was going to, but she just basically, while they're busy fucking up in Iran and
Yeah.
getting, and getting covered for that, and then fucking up by attacking the Pope, which is, I guess, getting people to not pay attention to Iran.
Mm.
Then Melania steps in and brings it all right back to
Oh,
Epstein.
chef's
Like,
kiss. And as far as his hatred for her, to aptly, I think, quote Terry Garr in Young Frankenstein, the feeling is mutual.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's that's who I'd go with. But I mean, right now, you know how he is. I mean, Pam Bondi, Christy Nome, the
Mhm.
cruelty, viciousness, evil, perjury, the fact that both of them, if we have a system that works after this, will go to prison because they committed multiple, I'll say alleged, but we all saw what they did, crimes. He didn't fire them because of that. He
Uh-uh.
fired them because they weren't doing a good enough job lying, stealing,
Covering for him.
cheating
That's
for
right.
him. So
Right.
now JD Vance has done the same. He goes over.
Yes.
The whole point is he's supposed to be the guy with the connection to the hard right, the Peter
Right.
Thiel, that whole universe of fucking freaks, the billionaire predator universe. And he
Hmm.
goes over there and gives his usual like speech, which comes off a lot like if you
Ugh.
remember, like he's ordering Dunkin' Donuts. It never goes well because he has to
Are
actually
you
interact with
accusing
a
him of not
human.
having Riz? Because I gotta say,
Dude,
in case of emergency, that's their break glass Riz moment.
he doesn't just not have Riz. Let me try to
Fuck,
explain this
man.
to you. Al, as
Yeah.
a smart guy who loves space,
Mm.
he's a Riz event horizon. Okay,
Oh
he is a
shit! Right.
black hole.
All light
That's
and hope is sucked into the lack of Riz.
all Riz that's anywhere in the vicinity is sucked in
Right.
and disappears because I mean, just amazing getting up there and that ridiculous endorsement. And I was on the other day, who was on with Joe Walsh, and we were talking about it in general. That this is another one of those things that I don't think a lot of people get who don't pay close attention to this stuff and haven't for years. I did stuff in international affairs too. That was my original background for state and USIA. But you don't need to have done that to know this, which is we had a longstanding policy. It is what smart democracies do, that
Mhm.
you don't get involved in other people's domestic elections because if
Right.
you do, then if the
The
side
floodgates will
wins,
open. Right. Oh well. Yeah.
well,
You
right,
own
the
it.
side win. If you're trying to keep your relationship with that country, if the side wins that you have not endorsed, you have fucked yourself, which is
Yes.
what they've done. And
Wonderfully,
so
by the way, masterfully.
yes,
Yes. This is a
masterfully. I
fuck.
mean, so
This is a
masterfully,
glorious fuck
one
up.
imagines. Yeah, such a masterful fuck up. One imagines there had to be a couch in the room with JD. That's how good
Yeah.
it was.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
If this
it was such a good fuck up. His mascara.
this negotiation was a giant couch essentially.
Yes. Yeah,
And
and his mascara was running after his over. Look,
and he just
thing
dove
is
straight in and
couch humping.
Couch humping, jumping, feel the beat, feel the beat.
Yeah, feel the beat.
Higher, can't retreat. Feel the rhythm, can't deny. Couch humping,
This
So we
feels like
know-
the kind of thing that maybe that Ben Shapiro probably played at his bar mitzvah. I just
it's yeah. Well, it might have been J.P. Mandel's bar mitzvah. We know nothing
That's
about
right.
this man
J.P.
and his
Mandel.
5 names. For all we know,
by
Yeah.
the way, I know I'm sorry. We both
It's-
talk a
we-
lot. I'm cutting you. I don't mean to cut
It's
you
all
off,
right.
but I made that point from the beginning.
Mhm.
And it's a point you've seen in numerous parts of the Republican Party. You
Yeah.
saw it with George Santos, who had 4 different names, right? Katara, whatever the fuck, and
yeah.
George DeHolder. And you've seen it with, what's her name? Maria Paulina Luna, who's a lunatic. Her name was like Maria.
Anna Paulina
Dietrich.
Luna is the
It was like
thing to
Maria
say.
Dietrich for the German half. And then she, if you change, and then you've got JD Bowman, John David Bowman Vance. I mean, if you are so deeply insecure, if you are such a fucking loser, that
Yeah.
even in your teens, you are changing, not because there was one new marriage, so of
Right.
course you change your last name the way Bill Clinton did, or someone like, I don't know about somebody that changes their name multiple times, because which tells you everything you need to know about them psychologically, how
Right.
absolutely deeply insecure they are. So here goes this insecure loser who cannot interact with people in a donut shop.
Hmm.
You send him over with Orban, who's already gonna get his ass kicked. The economy there, it's a lot of the same issue here. People have finally seen through it. There's inflation. There's just nobody can afford anything, and the guy obviously is a fascist, and people and the youngest generation is just tired of it.
Hmm.
And I mean, the ass kicking there after JD Vance went in. I mean, again, start thinking midterms, and I believe in October there may be an election for Bibi's friends in Israel too.
Oh
You should start
yeah.
looking around at the Dictators Club, because
Oh
it's
man.
amazing what we're seeing. Bolsonaro got kicked out, of course, tried to coup, and he's actually in prison for it. Duterte, who was in that first term with Trump, got, we've seen some of these dictators get kicked out, and but this is the biggest one so far,
Well,
because
do you think this
most
is
people.
a moment of accelerationists almost being accidentally right in some ways? In that, in some of these
Yeah,
cases, like it got so fucking bad, and the reins were so off these guys that they just felt like I can do no wrong, I can get away with any fucking thing, and
that's the
so
problem, is these
yeah,
accelerationists, they want everything to go to shit, and then they think everybody will be begging them to solve it. The
right,
problem is when
it's real
you are
damage.
is when you're well, it does real damage to real people, and when you're incompetent and you're an asshole, when you don't have the personality to win people over, when you don't have the competence to win people over,
Mhm.
when you make and do a number of unbelievably stupid things publicly, when you're the one standing up fighting with, NATO and the EU, where traditionally they had been a positive member of those organizations, and you're holding up aid to Ukraine.
Right.
On top of all of that, a key thing to say is that I don't think most people know. There's a place, Freedom House, that ranks democracies around the world.
Hmm.
We don't rank very well right now. I think we are an illiberal democracy. They're still saying,
Which is what
we
which is
still have
what
elections.
Orban, was what Orban, for the record, bragged about creating in Hungary.
Correct. He did that, and we were copying his playbook, a lot of it. But the thing is that I don't think a lot of folks know is that you got to look back. I think it's 2001, 2, 3 in that range. Like Hungary was ranked one of the, and I'm not kidding you, strongest democracies in Europe.
Right.
He took this country that had probably, outside of like Czechia, or whatever, most
Yeah.
successfully transitioned from the Soviet Union to becoming a democracy,
Hmm.
not casino capitalism like in Russia, and not, not a
Ironically,
deprived country.
Kazakhstan, who
Right,
shrugged off, Putin's attempted invasion to place his preferred leader in place, and what they
correct,
ended up with was a guy who is half Kazakh, half Chinese, and
right, which
totally,
always works out well for the
holy
nationalists.
shit,
Right,
and
right. So this is what, and I mean, they were rated a top democracy in every way: free
yeah,
press, free judiciary, a strong government bureaucracy filled with professionals who were not political, doing their jobs. Military, not politicized, strong unions, like
right.
everything that all the kinds of institutions. Oops, sorry about that.
That's okay. You're a popular
All
guy, and it just proves I was right to have you on the show.
Maybe, or maybe I missed a doctor's appointment today, and that was the guy checking in, like, "Are you going to actually show up tomorrow?" But let's just say
Oops.
it was somebody who
Yeah.
really loves me.
Yeah.
Um, and so
So-
I mean, people have been alive long enough, right? So and
right.
obviously there are younger folks who only knew what was like under him and hated it, but people have been alive long enough, had seen this transition from what they were to
Hmm.
what they'd become. And it just was, he kept making promises, and while he was sort of keeping them, it wasn't really him, but their
Right.
economy was going well and all this, he could get away with it. And but
Yeah.
once all of this imploded, and a lot of people in Hungary, there's traditional alliances with various people, are pro Ukraine, and just other things. He done fucked himself, and
Yeah.
I mean, Honestly, last I looked, maybe it's changed. 66%. Like the
Yeah.
Magyar, which by the way, Magyar means Hungarian or
Yeah.
Hungary. It'd be like, "Hi, I'm running for president. My name's Cliff America. Will you vote for
Yeah.
me?"
Right.
Um, like this guy who, it's an argument for in some ways for certain things that you could say that never Trumpers have done or whatever, because he had been in the Fidesz. I'm not pronouncing it right, I'm sure, but he had been in
Mhm.
that party
Yeah.
and he saw some of the scandals up close, at least this is how the story goes, and was pressured to keep quiet about them and could
Mhm.
not, and was horrified, and also thought that they were taking too hardline a position against Ukraine, that they were taking too hardline and anti-LGBTQ position. I don't think this guy is like a champion, but he put out some statement. I think we feel like it was last year when there was a march
Right.
in Budapest where he just said, "Can't we all just love each other as Hungarians?" I just think the toxic nature of who Orban is, kind of like that other, jackass in this country who can't tie a tie without it hanging below his dick and can't
Mhm.
find a fitting suit and has piss cotton candy for hair. Yeah, I stole that from Penn Jillette and I'm using it forever.
That's right.
Um,
Credit
but
where credit is due.
they just had enough of this
Yeah.
trollish little figure who's always negative, who's always angry, and once his promises started falling apart, and here is the key part. There were, and I always say this to people, candidates matter. You have to have, I mean, most people in these midterms, if there's a free and fair election, will vote against, a lot of people will vote against Trump because he's terrible.
Yeah.
But you want to be offering people something that is a contrast. And here is this guy who's 45 while Orban's in his mid 60s with like the spiked hair.
Yep.
He's thin and in good shape while Orban's this dumpy looking, troll.
Bridge troll,
And he has
right?
all this energy.
Right there with you.
I'm sorry?
But I was about to say bridge troll, and you nailed it. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
He
he has all
looks
this
like an
energy,
orc.
and now he's right, and now he's moderating on issues. He didn't go completely like left wing, and maybe
Right.
that would have worked too. I'm not saying which. I think different
Okay.
circumstances call for different things.
I agree. Here's what I would say. Considering his policies, it wouldn't have. And considering where the country was, it wouldn't have. And that was their sort of failure in the last few runs to try to oust Orban was that they were trying to overcompensate one way. And the electorate was the reason they put up with Orban for a while was because their physical proximity to the Middle East and to Africa specifically made them a particular target for migration, forced migration.
Yep.
I would argue that Russia intentionally has been actively provoking. You notice how the caravans dried up the minute Russia needed every goddamn dime it had.
They actively provoke it. I mean, remember they said to Orban,
they pay for it. Right.
Like you should fake an assassination attempt.
Yep,
which,
all that
makes
shit.
A few of us think about Butler, Pennsylvania.
We'll bus
photographers are being positioned in place.
Yeah, we'll bus murderers to your doorstep so you can say, look at all the murderers on our doorstep. It's the exact same thing they were giving Trump. And somebody who was like, came in and went,
you go, go ahead.
Yeah, went full on open borders or whatever and was just kind of like, it was like singing Imagine by John Lennon, would not have gotten elected. And there's an element of where like by emotional and self-righteous contrast to how awful Orban is, that might have been the feeling of a portion of the voters over time. Like, this is just, he is so evil. Anything that is the opposite of what he's doing is good. But you end up in the danger on the left side of things of basically pulling a Trump, which is anything with Obama's name on it, I've got to erase and get rid of. And that's the mentality of the sort of fringe voters on both sides. What they ended up coming up with was a former member of this guy's own party who was against all the more extreme parts of it, couldn't speak up, and then eventually said, look, we do need to worry about migration, but only because it is materially targeted at us. It is a destabilizing factor that Russia's going, so we need to friends. Go ahead.
I just to say quickly, and when I don't want to argue with folks, I mean, on the left, but like you do, the difference is that people should always be treated humanely.
Yes.
Right. There should be a humane process for what happens when people who are desperate show up at your border, because they're not showing up there for fun. Generally, they're desperate. At the same time, you do need to have a border. You do need to, if you're a country, you need to have a border. You need to have it patrolled. There are actual terrible people in the world, like the Orbans and Putins, who can come in and look, if somebody, I mean, we've had the problem, of course, as usual, as Republicans, 67 senators voted for an excellent bill and it was blocked in the House, I think in 2008, I want to say, or whatever, that
Hmm.
would have combined,
Right.
saying, look, we're going to bring folks out of the shadows. They're going to be heavily taxed because they came in and they didn't wait their place in line. And I think that's
Right.
the fairest way to do it because you're saying, look, I get it. You were desperate and none of us would wait our place in line if we're worried about
Hmm.
our families getting killed. At the same time, we'd understand that by cutting the line, we would have to pay some penalties. We would have to wait a certain period of time, but we would be brought out. We wouldn't have to be hiding in the shadows, and we could have done all of this with a reasonable force on the
Right.
border, not creating ICE after Homeland Security. This militarized ICE bullshit was never necessary,
Right.
and we could, yes, he took the position of, yeah, we got to protect our borders. He didn't take the bait on that, and he
Right.
didn't take the bait on other issues. But he said, he made sure to say about Ukraine that it was getting insane. What I don't remember how he put it, but he put it in a good way to show that he would be much more friendly to Ukraine without sort of coming out and saying it. Giving
We got to
Orban the
sense.
ability to see he's going to
Right.
send your people in there
Kids
to
to die
die. He's
there.
going to
Right.
spend your money. And he did the same thing, I believe, showing some tolerance. I think sent a message on for the LGBTQ community because other minorities said, okay, well, this guy can speak out and say we should love all Hungarians and care about all of our people. That's all of our people.
Hmm.
So he exactly broke in the right way. And I would say that I think you're right in this case. I don't always agree. I mean, I think, look, first of all, talented politicians are talented politicians. And if they're
Hmm.
talented enough, like whatever their politics are, they can win. But
Hmm.
because candidates do matter. But I
Yes.
would say, and they had a talented politician there. But I would tell you, we're looking at what Trump has done, and most of the kind of consolidation of the insane courts have been going on even before Trump. So we've had that, although it's mostly Supreme Court. Some of our other courts have held up well. But what he's done with the bureaucracy, firing all sorts of people that we need to be there, um, and eliminating that and putting political cronies in there. The people he's appointed to the heads of departments obviously are just a joke. Things like that he's done to weaken other institutions. Having his buddies like Ellison buy up the media. We have to remember that that's been going on here for a couple years for the most part. That happened in Hungary over 16 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of people didn't couldn't know the truth, didn't
Right.
know the truth.
Well,
And
let me.
therefore, having a candidate run who's not quite as much of a break is probably a better idea, because, they've
But
been told
it's
they're being told
interesting.
one thing.
It's
Yeah.
interesting too in the margins. There is a huge break in just a slight move to more normalcy because it was the illusion of some form of normalcy that Orban used to keep power for a while. It's like Trump using, America first and make America great again is this illusion of caring for the country when it had been uncared for years, which is also bullshit and has more to do with sort of like the intentional ignorance of the Fox voter and that kind of stuff. But let me run through a couple of things that
Sure.
specifically the whatever the TISA party that he came from and that he's technically sort of a part of. Under like Orban, he tried to cut their healthcare system and he called it a money pit. And, in the same way that Trump's saying, we can't do daycare, we've got to do military, we can't do
Right.
healthcare and blah, blah, blah.
Daycare, Medicaid,
Same
Medicare.
shit. Orban was saying this like 8-10 years ago. So here's the biggest changes is that Orban turned it into a crony capitalist nightmare. They were the most corrupt EU country year after year after year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and Orban, wore that as a badge of honor. It's one of the reasons why JD Vance went there. It's one of the reasons why Trump likes him so much. It's one of the reasons why.
Well, yeah, the
Like,
Heritage Foundation
oh
has
fuck yeah,
worked with them on Project 2025. They held CPAC at one point over there. Tucker went over there and dribbled all over it,
right.
drooled
So
all over. They've basically had strong connections to this.
So his Magyar has basically promised. They're going to join the EPPO, which is the European anti-corruption body that checks that oversees and makes sure that if you give a contract to somebody, they earned it. They're not just the second cousin of
They're not Donald Trump Jr.
Right. Exactly. Right. So right now, he's pledges EPPO membership on day one. and a national asset recovery office to go through all the contracts that Orban had put in place and broom out anybody who was just given it not on merit but on this corruption. I'm just saying we could take a page out of this book. This is a checklist of things that we might want to think about.
We could. We
right
absolutely have
fucking
to.
away. Right. Then he goes, Magyar called it organized crime, described Orban's circle as, quote, an economic and political mafia, which is an absolute apt discovery.
Yep.
His,
I mean, yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So they broke a bunch of laws under Orban, and 18 to 20 billion dollars was frozen by the EU going into the country because of these specific contracts, because they need a review process to allow for the money, like almost like states giving to the federal government. The federal government go, if your state's corrupt, we're not going to send you funds for your school system if you've been diverting it for years into fucking,
right.
you know.
But even right now, I mean, you can find some of these no bid contracts Trump's given out to defense contractors and whatever. It's similar to that. I just think on a much larger scale, he'd been there longer, had control of, I mean, not on a larger scale overall, because we have a much bigger GDP. What I mean is on a larger scale in terms of, per capita, because they consolidated a lot of control of a lot of institutions there.
So the Orban's party ran the healthcare system through an interior ministry and abolished the health ministry entirely in 2010. Sound familiar? Like very Doge. Get rid of the the people who actually give a shit and fold it under your Secretary of State. Essentially, is that kind of idea? He's pledging 7% of GDP by 2030, up from 6.7%, towards their health ministry, reinstating it, and then that will include an instant addition of $500 billion a year minimum in additional funding in new hospitals in all 7 regions of the country. And then the World Medical Association has formally condemned Orban's recent move to strip the Hungarian Medical Center of independence, which they've been talking about for a while. Of course, then Orban blocked $90 billion of this Ukraine loan package that their own parliament had put together. And
I mean, that's the thing.
And he's going to unfreeze it.
They were such a thorn in their side,
right? Even though the people voted for it. Even though in many ways it's similar to the kind of stuff that went on through the Congress under both the House and the Senate under Biden, they basically just kind of like step on the hose. He can't stop it entirely, but he puts an interminable hold on it with the attempt of like, well, maybe Russia will make some advances while I'm standing on the hose. Very similar to Trump's like holding up of the javelins in his first term. Specifically to give Russia the chance, because they were going to invade in his next term was the idea. They had to punt a year because Biden got in, and they were, they had to.
And Trump would have found a way to support them at that point, and
totally.
But the whole plan changed. So I mean, in the end, 2020 ended up being a pretty big, to quote Joe Biden, a big fucking deal. Right? Like, I mean.
It did. And it was heavy voter turnout. I want that to be the message to everybody. It was heavy voter turnout that made the difference. 79.5% of the Hungarian public that can vote showed up to vote. Like almost 80%. Insane. That's fucking great. And it's again.
Listen, if we were able to get 2/3, I would be fucking ecstatic.
Agreed. And I think we will. I think that's one of the things that will push this. So anyways, the Magyar's party got 138 seats, 53.6% of the vote share. Fidesz still has 37%, and this the far right in there has 7% still. And that's the people that Orban.
I read that they had won with 2/3. Maybe I.
Well, they may have played out. I may be looking at this is the initial reporting on the winning, so it may have grown since then.
Listen, if you've got 53+%, you can hold your folks together. You've got a solid majority. So
and the other side is dividing between them and even farther right nutcases, and they've got to fight amongst themselves, which is great. He does have technically, because the other party, here's how it is, because Fidesz only has 37%, and the other party has 7%, he has a super majority of the 3 parties. So the thing is,
but we're also missing a few percent in there. Like,
yes, that haven't
kind of moderate or liberal party at all.
Well, they all moved to him. They basically all moved to Magyar, right?
because they would support. If any of them still exist and they won under their party's banner, the way parliamentary systems work, I'm pretty sure they would throw in with Magyar and
Right.
make him
Yeah,
even
this is
stronger.
a fucking nightmare for not just like Trump's aspirations in the world, but also the connections he was building with Orban as a toehold into turning Europe to the right. That's what they
Yep.
were hoping for, was that, he was like, okay, we got this brick in the wall. We got to start adding more bricks. And so he was supporting people that would be far right in Germany and other places. They failed. And well, at least we'll always have Orban. And apparently not.
And that was
So
important. Again, people forget, right? That I mean, it's not to say Hungary is one of the leading economic or military powers,
that's right.
but where it's located in the region it's in, with what's going with Russia and Ukraine, and you've got Belarus, who are just basically suckling on Putin,
Mhm.
and so that made it critical. It's also critical because it's history. I mean, I brought up the part about
Yes.
Freedom House, what a democracy was, but people forget that they had an uprising in 1956 against Khrushchev. Was it Khrushchev at the time? I
Mhm.
believe, against the Soviet Union, and wanted independence from them. Like, they've shown this fierce
Mhm.
independent streak in the past, and I think having Hungary, and really just having any kind of an ally in the EU, is good for Putin. And having one that, with this history and this whatever, I think the symbolism of it helped him, and so this is huge.
Mhm.
This is huge.
Absolutely. And so a very like positive, inspiring, hopefully for people who are going to vote this fall, that things like this are possible. I mean, you compare this with the Brits actually taking Prince Andrew and a couple other people who were Epstein
Yep.
friends and really treating them like they should be treated, kicking them out, removing them from power, possibly prosecuting them. Like, I'm just saying, there's some ideas out there in the rest of the world. That's the great thing about America. We can take the best ideas and use them. I'm just throwing that together. So let's go to the Pope. So all right.
Speaking of Americans,
Fucking hell. So you saw, I have no doubt, the picture that Trump posted, and I'll bring it up in a second, where Trump, and he finally took it down, apparently, after, what a fucking moron.
Yeah.
Um,
You go alienate
right.
the Catholic community.
Right. Unbelievable.
He's already, by the way, seen. So I don't know if you know Mike Madrid. He's a never Trump. He was the head of the California Republican Party. He left, and he's relatively moderate, Latino,
Mhm.
and probably is one of the top Latino pollsters out there. And he has said that in his, I think he's in his, I don't know how old he is, but like 50s or 60s. And he basically was like, I have never seen this kind of a switch from any group, from one party to another, in all of the time I've been doing this. That Trump is at negative 54 compared to where he was among Latinos. He
Right.
has lost 54% of his Latino support. So now you throw in that the Latino community is pretty Catholic, and you're insulting their Pope.
Look,
Good
I
work.
mean, let's take a gander at this shit. Holy hell.
What the
Like,
fuck? I mean, he's such a God.
and here's the thing. I don't necessarily, I'm sure this was a repost. I'm sure he
I'm
grabbed
sure
it.
it was. He's not, but doesn't change it.
No, not at all. What I'm saying is, he removed. Normally with a repost, he'll cover his ass, right? He'll leave the reposting part of it, right? On there, that it's from somebody else, just to give him plausible deniability in case there's blowback later. This case, he didn't. He just copied it and popped it in there and stuff, and that's what makes it look like it was from him. Right. It was like his people made it.
He's so angry. I mean, you know what happened, right? Now at this point, the story with it's come out. I won't go into all the history of it, but folks, if they want to understand it, should look up and read about the Avignon papacy. And essentially, when there was a schism, there's a split between where who was the real pope in history.
Right. Sure.
Well, So one of Trump's, probably Stephen Miller, because he's evil, but he actually is educated, and smarter than Trump. One of those
the
people,
worst kind of evil. Right.
right? One of them threw that out there at, I
Mhm.
guess, some of the staff or some of the folks that work for the Pope, and really pissed them off. Like, as in, you don't support us, we'll find another Pope in
Mhm.
an Avignon papacy. And his response was, and he just
I'll be the
checkmated
Pope.
Donald Trump, is he was supposed to come here for the 4th of July for our 250th anniversary. Not only did he cancel it, but he canceled it and changed his plans. And that day he will be on Lampedusa, if I'm pronouncing it right, island off of Italy, where Northern African migrants come through to go to
Mhm.
Italy. That's the contrast of what he will be doing instead of being at our 4th of July 250th
Mhm.
celebration. And he leaked out through an aide that he's doubting, and at this point, pretty sure he will not be coming to the United States while Trump is president.
No
So
doubt. And
that's
the
what Trump
irony
is
that
so
he's
pissed
from
about.
here. We got our first American Pope, and he's staying away for the 250th. Like there's a stack of like fuck yous in that are brilliant.
Mhm.
But
There's a whole lot of fuck yous in that,
may
and I think Trump,
I'd
as
like
usual, cannot take it, so he
right.
lost his shit.
I'd like to point out a few things that I like about this picture, not the least of which is this young lady praying to Trump, apparently. And this weird maggot guy, I guess, staring at this nurse down here. But
I hate to say it, but from what we know about Trump, depending on her age, she
oh
should
yeah,
run. Actually,
yeah,
really, whatever age she is, she should run.
she's too old.
Get the fuck away
Yeah,
from her.
right, yeah. But I like the fact that our fighter jets in the background are one has like 4 wings, but this one's flying into the other one, so they're about to crash. This one's already crashed midair; it just hasn't exploded yet. There apparently is a second tail out of here. They're not cleaning up any of this shit. And also, I'm presuming that this is like the Antichrist as the Statue of Liberty
I was trying to
demon.
decide, like
It's
who that was. It looks sort of devilish.
yeah, it's Baal as the Statue of Liberty, the goddess Columbia, whatever. Okay, surrounded by, I'm presuming, our dead soldiers from Iran in heaven, looking down in approval of him, and then his fucking glowing hands, like he's bringing this guy back from the dead, like Lazarus, or is. I prefer to believe
Jesus.
he's actually stealing his soul, and that this is exactly what Timu.
That's what he's likely doing, is
Yeah.
he's capturing his soul and then selling it on his crypto exchange.
That's right. This is
So-
another NFT, from Timu Antichrist.
Right.
But he finally took this image down after everybody would screamed at him. Here's the thing. I don't know that he did. I don't think he took it down. I think somebody took it down for him. I think
Very
Scavino
easily
or who went, fuck, man, we got to take this down. Don't tell the boss. He's not going to scroll back and look at it. He's been losing his goddamn mind typing these screeds at people who apparently don't matter, but he needs to show how much they don't matter.
You don't matter, but I am taking the time to insult you. And,
right.
I mean,
I'm going to write more about you than I have written about anyone, including the Ayatollah. Right?
He'll never, he can't, his little insecure, addled brain can't fathom that here's this guy who came out of Chicago, with part black lineage, in his family, the Pope,
Mhm.
and has arrived at this position where he can basically tell Donald Trump to fuck off on the 250th, and Trump, there's nothing Trump can do about it, and to
Right.
Donald Trump, that is unacceptable.
So at a certain point, he said last year, after the Epstein memo that no one believed and everybody, especially on the right, got hair on fire mad about. His follow up to that was, I don't need you. I need just this remote and the chair and the dog. I don't need Marjorie Taylor Greene. Right? He's literally. Yeah, I don't need this. I don't need my dog, which is effectively what's happening with all of MAGA. I just need my dog. I don't need my dog. Like, that's what he did with MAGA. But he was like, fuck you. Not only do I not need you, but if you're not on board with me flushing the entire Epstein story and all the perpetrators involved in it, down the toilet into the memory hole. Fuck you. Like it was
I mean, and that's as big a part of this, you know, is there
as
just
anything.
maybe right, because there's gonna be a certain number of MAGA lunatics who would never and won't, unless he keeps insulting them personally, but otherwise won't vote for a Democrat. But
Mhm.
what they will do is not turn out because they
Yes.
will be so sickened by him.
Well,
Like the winnable ones, the ones that were let's call them MAGA adjacent, are just flipping on Trump and leaving that party like crazy. And then you've got these the crazy ones, and we don't frankly need them to vote for us.
we
If
just
they want
yeah.
to just stay home and let us take care of the heavy lifting, that works too.
Well, Owen Schroyer, who of Alex Jones's Angry
Yeah.
X Club,
Yeah, I read
and
his whole thing and saw some video where he was ripping the shit out of Donald Trump.
yeah, and Nick Fuentes, both of them have told their followers, which is a big incel crew, to vote for Democrats, not just stay home. But
Which is, I mean, that's amazing, huh?
we
I
need
mean,
to teach these guys a lesson was the idea, and it needs to be a trouncing. Now, if only we could get the couch sitting Dems who thought the difference between Trump and Harris was a coin flip. If we could get those folks off the couch, which I believe we can. I believe that regret has the power to drive anyone to do the right thing after they've
it does.
clearly done the
You
wrong
know,
thing.
we saw that phenomenon play out um, with Hillary in 2016, and some of those folks then returned for Biden because they realized it. But in the end, I won't. I don't think it's even fair in most cases to call them
Hmm.
Democrats. I don't know any Democrats, anyone.
Right.
And
I
I
agree.
know a lot of Democrats. I don't know any who consider themselves a Democrat who did not go out to vote for Kamala Harris.
Agreed. Agreed.
These are those leftist fucking nothing's ever good enough, pure holier than thou. Of course, until you look into their lives and you find the 50 things that they haven't followed that they've preached the rest of us should.
Surely you're
But
not talking about Hassan Piker and his, if there's grass on the mound, let's play. If she,
right.
old enough to
No, I'm
bleed,
talking
old enough
about.
to
I
breed
mean,
shit, or
I was thinking about. Go
Chenks,
ahead. I think,
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
Chenks,
No, go ahead.
guess the camel toe days from the early days of the Young Turks, again, an organization
Yeah,
named after
well,
the
that's what I was
people who
gonna say.
carried
I was
out
talking
the
about
Armenian
somebody
genocide.
whose
Right.
name who rhymes with Mank Mook.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is that
Menk
in the
Blucher.
end,
Right.
right? And the thing is, my first gig ever was going on that show once a week.
Hmm.
I have to explain to people 20 years ago. Remember, there was a time when, what's his name? Orban was a liberal internationalist reformer standing up to the Soviet Union, and his original run through as prime minister was completely different. So, point being, people become corrupted and lose their fucking minds.
Right.
And over at that place, like again, the two sides of the same coin, don't vote. Anybody who's even remotely saying any of that sort of shit, well, it's generally because, well, you're a millionaire and it's not going to hurt you, you fucker. But you're
Hmm.
convincing people who it is going to hurt to not go out. The only, I mean, they people like that have said, I'm not a Democrat.
Right.
And so I mean, I don't accept that that anybody is a Democrat and then didn't take a look at those two and see a
Agreed.
whole hell of a lot of difference and turn
Hmm.
out and vote for Harris. It's
I
those sort of purist leftists
well,
who
I'll
did.
go even further than this. I will go even further that, especially when we're talking about 100,000 people in Michigan and certain counties and that kind of stuff, that not only were they not honest in their assessment of, Biden versus Harris and their whole genocide Joe bullshit that they were selling everybody, because nobody looks at somebody who's like talking actively of ethnically cleansing Gaza permanently, getting the Palestinians out. They should be somewhere else anyways, and putting up Trump Plaza Gaza and throwing that
Right.
video up of him fucking partying in basically, the Gaza becomes Dubai Part 3, right? That not only did they, have that to go on, but I personally believe that if they voted, for him or didn't vote for Harris, they wanted the Palestinians wiped out. They didn't actually believe it. That they sided with.
Well, they either wanted them wiped out or couldn't give two shits because, if you're looking at the two side by side,
Mhm.
there is one who's doing everything possible to try to push Netanyahu to be at all responsible, and Netanyahu's
Right.
a fucking ghoul. Like, we can't control Trump, they can't. Israel
Mm-mm.
itself been trying to, kind of like what Hungary just did. Israel's been trying to rid itself of this asshole for 15 or 20 years. You know, Netanyahu's a right-wing lunatic, a
Mm-hmm.
Trump supporter, a Putin supporter. He's a indicted criminal who wants to stay in office. I could go on and on and on, but when you people generalize these things and make it so that, well, that's everybody. Well, no, it's not.
Mm-mm.
Actually, the majority of Israelis cannot stand him.
Right.
Kind of like the majority of us cannot stand Trump. And if you want to do that, you could just paint us all with that brush and say we're all Trumpers, if you'd like.
Right.
I mean, that is the issue, and they've got, I think, elections coming up in, is it October? I mean, if they can get rid of him and we can massively weaken Trump, like that changes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, any case,
yeah. So obviously there was a ton of pushback from the maggot sphere about this. Even Milo Kripanopoulos posting this, oh, hell no, we tolerate this kind of meme against our better judgment because he promised to save America, and only when it was clear he didn't actually think he was the Messiah. Why do I feel like Paula White did this to him and to us? Pray for his soul, pray for us all. Okay, no, he chose to do this. Paula White didn't make him do this. Netanyahu didn't talk him into this fucking war. Like, I get that Netanyahu wanted this tactically and to help himself there, but I got to tell you, like, again, the last call saying, okay, do it, was from MBS. And Trump, and it doesn't matter where it was from, Trump was going to do it because he gave up on the Nobel Peace Prize. So he's like, why am I even going after peace anymore then? Fuck this.
Dude,
I want the Nobel War Prize.
He got the FIFA one. That's the prestigious one.
Yeah, it's true. Touche.
Well, and that's where I sort of find these dividing lines between people that I believe are being sincere and people who are anti-Semitic, quite simply. Because if you're acting like Bibi Netanyahu was the all-controlling and the only one, and the only person that we were funding who was being awful, and again, it doesn't justify it. Yeah, I think Biden should have pulled funding from Netanyahu quicker. I'm not sitting here, but again, you don't hear talk from these same people almost ever about MBS. The guy fucking had somebody bone sawed who was American, bombed the Houthis to basically destroy them and mass murder families, and we support them financially. So where's all the anger about
Trump moved our troops out of Syria in his first term, beating his chest that I got our troops out of the Middle East. He put them in Saudi Arabia, guarding as human shields around gas refineries. That's what he did with them. They didn't come home. They went to Saudi Arabia to stand there so that if the Yemenis fired on these plants, they would kill American soldiers, therefore drawing us into that war. That was the point.
I don't really understand, like, again, people, and again, you're telling on yourself if you're somebody who it's just Bibi. Bibi who's a war criminal, and a criminal who should end up in The Hague. Hamas, Hezbollah, MBS, the Ayatollahs, also all horrific people who should end up at The Hague. Like, you don't have to pick one or the other. You can sit there and say, hey, sometimes there just is a lot of awful to go around. But, again, there are elements of the Israeli populace, numerous elements, have been trying to fucking remove this guy forever, but under a constant state of siege and fear of, we're going to be attacked by this or that or what, he's been able to manipulate them, and it sucks. But if you don't admit that on some level, you're just not admitting the truth about the situation there. And this, our support for the Saudis, again, I mean, if you're not bringing that up as part of the reason that we're fighting, MBS was pitching that constantly. So was Qatar, by the way.
Yes,
so
and
we're bringing that up. You're also not bringing up Al Thani in Qatar. I mean,
well, and all the business that Trump has with the Saudis and Trump has with the Qataris, especially, that like everybody talks about Dubai and UAE, but UAE, they kind of stand on their own and they want to be the like another conduit for European money by and large. They want to move from Russian money and Chinese money to European money because they think it's more stable, which it is. And so that's who they want. And that's why, by the way, the UAE and the Saudis want Iran out of the picture, because there's always been a glass ceiling on them becoming the new Las Vegas / Manhattan that they've been trying to do. But this threat of this, this ever growing Sunni Shia, and the Shias ending up with a weapon that can reach them, not nukes, but ballistic missiles, which is why the conversation turned, why we went back in to get rid of those, because they can't reach us. And I thought we were going to have a golden dome. So who gives a shit who has any bombs? We can knock them out of the air with our magic shield. So the real reason is because Trump has golf courses and hotels he's opening in those areas.
LIV, thing with, there's so much overlap. The people we don't know about who are invested in his little crypto business. Come on, they're Saudis, they're Qataris, this isn't difficult stuff to figure out.
Exactly. And the same thing with South America and Venezuela specifically was that, there are all these crypto farms in South America that Don Jr. and Eric got into business with. And by the way, can I just say that I've said this for a while, that if the Trumps get into a business, watch for it to take a shit. Watch for it to die. And the minute
they got into anything,
the minute they got into Bitcoin,
business, government, competent in everything they do,
they will destroy whatever they're, which is why Russia wanted them there. It's not because they want us to succeed. Trump was supposed to be a chaos agent that fucked our system. And so far, so good. And, that's the most successful and cheapest plan, asymmetrical warfare plan they have ever had was Donald Trump.
Oh, there's no doubt. I thought, for a while there, it seemed like the cheapest and most successful asymmetrical war plan by anybody was Bin Laden on 9/11 with just paying for some box cutters or whatever. Putin has one-upped him. Clearly. This guy, we had a piece up at our Substack, blueamp.co, everyone.
That's right, which everyone should check out. Yep.
Absolutely. And it was just it was looking at the various aspects of Donald Trump and what he's done. And if you were to sit there and you were building, a robot or the Bionic Man, you honestly couldn't build a better person to betray every U.S. interest, embarrass every U.S. ally, destroy every relationship. Just everything. There's never something he does that isn't for the betterment of Donald Trump. So you look at all, why are we sending all that money to, while our cattle ranchers are suffering? Why are we sending all that money to help Argentina sell their fucking beef to China?
Right.
I don't know. Anybody want to try to take a guess as to whether there was money involved there, and one of the 50 different ways these guys can launder money that was happening? It's just, this isn't rocket science. It really isn't.
What Trump and his people should fear is exactly what Elon Musk fears, which is the new anthropic mythos model, which they have not released because it is too powerful and could ultimately undo. Even before we get quantum computing being able to break all crypto codes, can hack into almost anything, which is, by the way, not an accident that Anthropic has mentioned this, just as the Defense Department has decided to kick them to curb for being too ethical. They're like, not only do we have this tool, motherfucker, P.S.
Well, they have it, at least the ethical ones have it. Let's hope they stay that way.
The problem is that this is where all these things go. Ultimately, we live in a world of if you've got normal secrets, you really don't have anything to worry about. You've got, there's always an issue where they're going to have, fingerprints or eye scans at some point to get into your, instead of just typing a code in a pin at the ATM, you're going to need a thumbprint at some point live with a pulse in it, or it's not going to work. And there's going to have to be limits on what can be taken out and those kind of things. Otherwise, these things will destroy us. It's a reasonable worry, not a huge one, but as far as other people, because you'll have the ability to recover it. The bank will be on the hook for it, not you, that kind of thing. But in the world of, if you've got awful secrets, if you're keeping something terrible hidden,
every single one of these motherfuckers,
right? You're fucked. And so a lot of them, I feel like, are trying to cash out and go away. So the Trumps, in many ways, look for them to be like feathering their nest as much as possible, and then fade and start peeling their name off of everything, and doing a Sam Altman, like building a bunker in fucking Hawaii and just going, I'll be safe here.
We'll see. I've always had the same theory. I have not changed it, and I will go with it again, which is because we will take, God knows how much time to hopefully not Merrick Garland time, but God knows how much time to put something together. Like they will end up in Saudi Arabia. It's the only place that has the kind of gauche, gross, golden palaces that they love. And go swimming. It's hot as fuck, like Florida. And probably has more mosquitoes. I'm kidding. It's a desert. But point being,
Right.
that's where Idi Amin lived out his days in Jeddah in a palace, instead of being put on trial for the fucking mass murder of Ugandan people and other people. I honestly, that is my bet. Is he's not sticking around here, because if he sticks around here, there'll be plenty of things that will be state laws that will be not subject. He could pardon himself 1 billion times and they won't matter, and he will go to prison. So will members of his family. So that is my bet right now. I've been saying it forever, is that he ends up fleeing the country, with probably not even with Melania, but he'll flee the country,
which
with
brings me,
two boys, and Kushner and maybe Ivanka, who knows, and they'll go and they'll live over there if they can, if we don't stop.
Right. And again, if the UAE and Saudi Arabia want some of that sweet European money, it means they got to be part of Interpol. It means they got to be a part of, the monetary system, and not protect, criminals. That will be a problem that they face in the future. That's if he makes it, by the way. I honestly don't.
That's the other thing is, again, I have enough good friends who are legitimately intelligent doctors who take a look at those blotches on his hands and take a look at the cankles and the other things, and are like, forget worrying about what he's going to do in 2028. He'd be lucky to see 2027.
I agree.
Again, we'll see. But people forget that when Ronnie Jackson, pill popper himself, was still the White House doctor during Trump's first term, and did that stupid analysis. He was like, he's going to live till he's 200. And you're just like, okay, this guy's running for office at some point. He's a MAGA creep. Like, you could tell. I'll never forget, I was watching CNN or whatever at the time, something I don't watch, the kind of thing I don't watch anymore. And Sanjay Gupta, who as far as I know, perfectly respectable doctor and all of that, took a look and said, if you look at these charts that this guy's presenting, he is already in the beginning phases or stages of heart disease. You can see it. And if he does not change, and if he's changed any of these things, it's for the worse. If he does not change his diet, if he does not change his behavior and get better sleep and stop, and all the rage tweeting and the this and the that,
in the middle of the night,
right? Up all of that. He's like, he said, I believe the term he used was, he has a moderate to serious chance of a stroke or heart attack in, I think at the time it was I think he said 5 to 7 years, and now it's been about 7, 8 years. I mean, even if it hasn't happened yet, although there've been some reports about Walter Reed and such, I don't think. I actually do not think he will see 2027. I'm not wishing it upon him, because actually I'd like him to live a long life and rot in prison. But from everything I can glean about his health, it's not good.
Well, my favorite thing was when he took this is his quote. Figure out if you can for me, what he actually is saying here about the COVID vaccine.
I felt really good almost after taking it.
So yeah,
I mean, that's classic him, where he has to
not good.
Right.
He can't say a straightforward sentence.
And that was years ago. That was when he had just gotten COVID. He'd huffed and puffed his way up the stairs. He said he was taking Regeneron, which is the name of the company, not the. Yeah, it's just so stupid. Anyways, so on our final note, blueamp.co. Am I getting it right? Yeah. Please check it out. Subscribe on the Substack. Yeah. I want to
go to the. We're in the process of rebranding and everything, so the YouTube will be the same, and so it's already kind of a Blue Amp Media product, but you go to @Cliffs_ Edge.
Edge,
It used to be
right?
Cliff's Edge thing, so at Cliffs_Edge. But you can find that via the Substack too. So blueamp.co is the easiest thing. Please subscribe. We're growing. The more we grow, the more stuff we can do.
Right back at you. So, and anything I can do, I'm always here.
I know.
Yeah, anything you
Good
want to
man.
push, yeah, you know me. I repost and restack whenever you want. I'm the little show that could. It's amazing that I have viewer hours in the same millions as the big channels, but under 100,000 subscribers. That's because I have real people, Cliff. So, anyways,
Yes, not having blow-dried assholes telling people things that aren't either aren't true or have no relevance to their life, and
or
protecting
talking to
power.
bot armies in
Right.
Ethiopia. So
Right.
I'm
It's
going to read
weird.
something to you. I'm going to read something to you, Cliff Schechter, and I want to know if this is something that you would write to someone you had your only email ever. This is the only time you've ever written to a person. You've never written to them again. You haven't really spoken to them before. You barely know them. And I think you know where I'm going, but I'm going to read it to you. And
I'm pretty sure I do, but I'm excited to hear it.
So this is the one and only email you have written to a practical stranger. Cliff Schechter, here we go. Dear G, how are you? Nice story about JE and New York Mag. You look great in the picture. I know you're very busy flying all over the world. How was Palm Beach? I cannot wait to go down. Give me a call when you're back in New York. Enjoy yourself. Love, Melania.
I mean, if pictures didn't speak 1,000 words and there weren't 87,000 pictures of her with him and Jelaine and their arms around him, that might say that right away is like, you're full of shit. But then add in, of course, this part you're talking about. I mean, we've seen it with others now. Not necessarily as important in this whole enterprise, but still anybody who helped Epstein should rot in hell. And so I wrote a piece a week or two ago on Michael Wolff and how full of shit he was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my God, pretending to be the honorable, sort of the guy that was coming to save us all because he's a real journalist. And then you find out that do you know when I'll ask you one. When New York Magazine, he was a columnist there. Now, if you're a writer, which I have been, I believe you have been, and you're writing a column somewhere, if you hear that the place you're writing a column for is going up for sale, your first questions are, shit, well, I still have a column there. Who's the new editor? Those are your questions if you're a journalist and not a businessman trying to load up on whatever. Hearing that New York Magazine was being sold, the first thing that Michael Wolff did was put together perhaps the worst and fucking sleaziest group. I'm just going to tell you, his finance group, his buyers group was Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein. I mean, you can't make this shit up. And Mort Zuckerman, who ended up being on the Epstein list and took part in Epstein activities, big real estate baron in New York who owned U.S. News and World Report for a while, blah, 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 and married a woman, I think, about 50 years younger than him. That's my only question was like, where was Woody Allen in all this? How'd they not get him involved in this buyers group?
Well, yeah, I was about to say, what, Bill Cosby's money don't spend?
Exactly. Where's Bill? They're racist. That's why.
Not Jewish, I guess, is the idea. Trying to create their own mafia, right?
No non-Jewish scumbags allowed. But actually, you're reminding me of something, and this is important. And I want your viewers to know this. Because the other thing is, you do come over to Blue Amp and you check us out. I made this very big decision. Now, look, you've seen some people, and some you may trust, some you may not. I've become good friends with Joe Walsh. I do a show with him. I like him. I think he apologizes and says, I was part of the problem. I was an asshole in a way that a lot of other never Trumpers don't ever take responsibility for what they did and all that stuff. Okay, I bring it up for one reason, which is, because of circumstance, I grew up in a world with a lot of these people. I went to a private school in Manhattan that was having a pedophilia scandal. That was Horace Mann. That was a rival of Dalton, which is where Jeffrey Epstein was teaching.
Which also had a pedophile scandal.
Yes.
Him.
I know a bunch of people that are on the list. If I'm being serious, like some of the younger ones that are on that list are people that I knew, because again, Then I went to Penn. Elon Musk was a few years behind me there. The Trump family's gone there. Trust me, I'm not happy about any of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the decision I made was democracy, my kids growing up in a democracy, everything else comes first. And a lot of the stuff, it wasn't that I was hiding anything. Instead, I hadn't put it all together. And I finally started sort of with the Epstein stuff, started looking at everything. And I said to myself, you know what? These are the same people. The same billionaires who are predators when it comes to young girls are the same ones who sexually harass and assault of age women are the same ones who are vulture capitalists who come in as private equity guys, take over your company, dump debt on it, steal your pensions, kill your job, and ship them abroad and destroy your life. The same ones who attack democracies like Viktor Orban and Donald Trump, and they prey on that. They prey. They're the healthcare, guys making $100 million a year, rejecting your claims so that you die. And we created these folks. I wrote a whole piece on it post Reagan when we just sort of got our freak flag on and said anything goes, economically, and stop the FDR order of taxing these fuckers and regulating them. And now we unleash the sociopaths.
Right.
My point is, I was there at the dawn of some of it. There was a generation older where I wasn't. So I wrote my first piece a week ago where I exposed the shit that went on at Horace Mann. I was recruited by the president of the school, who had been the head of Yale's admissions, who turns out was a predator. And there was stuff going around about it while I was there, like rumors. I wrote about that, and James Murdoch was the year behind me, so he makes an appearance, and then talked about Michael Wolff and people like him. And now it's amazing. You start looking up people, not all of you, but me, sadly. And just so everybody knows how much I loved that life and wanted to be a part of that she New York life. Here I am living in Cincinnati. So you figure it out if that was for me. So I'm fucking just telling it all.
Right.
I don't care. I may not be invited to certain reunions, and I may lose certain friends, and but I'm going to embarrass certain people. I don't give a shit. I think it all needs to be aired. And so in addition to sort of the political based pieces and the other stuff, you're now going to get a steady diet, because, we've had Ellie Leonard running at my place, who's written some great stuff and exposed some stuff on the Epstein scandal on Substack. Now I'm doing it from my personal experience, the people I knew, and how they helped contribute to all of this stuff. So,
well,
if you're interested, come on by.
That's fascinating. I will be reading all of it because I'm fascinated by it. Because I grew up across the river from a little ways in Kentucky. I was born in Cincinnati, but only because my mom was visiting my grandmother at the time when she went into labor, and it just so happens I was born in the same room she was born in at Christ Hospital on her birthday, because and yes, there was a comet. Yes, there was, right. And it was a sign.
How could there not be?
Right.
Dude, it's like you're rolling, dude, where's my car? You were like,
that's right. I warned ahead of time. And 3 dumb guys from the West showed up with really inappropriate gifts. It was almost the exact
inappropriate gift, and you're just like, where's your fucking GPS? Why do you guys not know where the hell you're going?
Here's your whoopee cushion, right? Here's your fart gun. And
I wanted to help out my Jewish brethren who are wandering in the desert for 40 years. Did somebody's phone break down? Okay, I'll stop.
So right. So I very much the opposite. Couldn't afford to go to university. At 14, decided when I moved up to Chicago to live with my dad. Decided I'm going to be a comedian, an actor, and a musician, and fuck anybody who tries to stop me. And I just started marching towards my goal. And I was surrounded by, in theory, at this very good school, kids who went to Northwestern, and I got a full ride scholarship to Drake in Iowa if I wanted it, because of acting, because I was,
And you probably saw some things too that you could.
Here's the thing. I ran into a couple of the warning signs. And I, like you, just went, oh, fuck that. In Chicago, there was a guy who used to, I've mentioned this a couple times in the show. There's a guy who used to be one of the biggest kid casting directors, for young roles.
Oh God, that scares me right
He
away.
He was a heavy set Leo Biscaglia type, a gay man. Otherwise, it would not have affected me in my auditioning. And I went with 3 guys from Second City that I was in school with to audition for a movie that he was doing. We went, he sent somebody over and went, okay, who looks this part? Walk right over. We didn't have agents yet or any of that shit. come over, and his office is in his apartment. And we go up there, and I go in the room, and he talks to you a little bit, like what makes you want to be an actor, and yada, 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 totally normal or whatever. Gets up, leaves the room, comes back in, no pants on. He's wearing underwear and his shirt
knew
and
we were
tie.
headed there.
And I was like, and because I was
should write about it, because again, like that.
He's dead, so it doesn't quite matter, I suppose.
Dead or alive,
Yeah,
like
right.
I don't care. I'm writing about both. The guy that I was talking about, who recruited me to Horace Mann, is dead, but there's others I'm writing about who are alive.
Okay.
And I want to make one point very clear too, which is just because I don't want to sound like I'm portraying myself as something I'm not. I wasn't, and thank God, I'm glad, but I wasn't I was, the way I used it, the way I framed this whole piece that I wrote. There are a chat here that I could find. I'd dump it in there for people to read. But was that, it's a big club and you ain't in it. The George Carlin line.
It's a little club, though. That's the funny part.
In the club,
right?
But I was in it. I kind of got let in because I was at the right institutions. But I actually grew up in a middle class family. We lived in a rent control apartment downtown. I just had I had a grandfather who had done very well, and he paid for all this stuff. So I ended up in all these places that I otherwise would not have ended up. And in a way, it made me an outsider, which was good because I paid attention to kind of some of the stuff going on. I mean, I made a joke in the first piece I wrote. You'll get this because you've spent enough time in New York, I think. Which it's changed. New York's changed now. I mean, people with all sorts of money live downtown and live in Greenwich Village and Brooklyn.
Right.
But back then, like the bus I was on, they had buses that would take you down from this nice posh area of the Bronx, Riverdale, right on the border with Westchester. And man, you'd get to 59th Street and the bus would go below 59th Street, and it was like rats and leaving a sinking. Everybody would get off and go to their wealthy places, and there were the few of us who went further downtown, God help us, into the bowels of New York. And I was one of those. Although there was another one who went down to Greenwich Village. And I don't think he had it too rough, maybe, but who's been a friend of mine for years and helped edit me or whatever. And you all probably know who he is because he was the editor-in-chief at one point of Rolling Stone, which is Noah Shackman. So if you know who Noah is, he was the year ahead of me at Horace. And so I just remember because he would be on the bus. There'd be like 15 of us left at most, probably 15. And so, I wasn't of their ilk, but I was in their club and I saw the things that happened. And I never, again, for years, that's on me. I didn't really put it all together.
Well, there's also, there's a club. Yeah, there's a practical part of this, though. And by the way, to end my story, I got up and walked out. And I took my buddy Matt with me.
I thought you were done.
I was not. I got up and walked out of the audition without reading for the part or anything like that. And I was like, I literally said, yeah, this isn't happening. And I walked out. And
I've got some extra cash. Do you need a pair of pants? Because I can buy you one.
No, because honestly, at that age, it was this much to keep me from beating the snot out of him. And because it was so obvious and so gross. Oh. And I walked out. I was like, Matt, we're leaving. Fuck this. We're not. Trust me. And then I told him the story as we walked back to Second City. That's it. I never got cast in a movie in Chicago the entire time I was there as a kid. Until I moved to Los Angeles, I wasn't cast in anything feature-wise except through an LA casting.
Right.
Because that dude made a fucking phone call. And it wasn't that he said, hey, this kid won't put out. He just said, I don't think so. Right?
All they have to do is put the
rest of them don't have to be in on it, is my point. The rest of that group don't have to be in on it. You can give them, made up reasons as to, I think he's more of a comic and he can't really act, whatever. That was basically the story.
Yeah, you can come up with anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, and so even finding an agent I got offers, I did fine. But the point is, I only chose one that had an office in LA because I knew I had to get the fuck out of there. And then when I go to LA, I had 2 experiences of a similar ilk with a producer and a screenwriter who both were like, this is your shot, kid. You can work together and all these kind of things and whatever. And then about 3 months in, they're like, I had a dream last night of you standing naked on a mountaintop. And you're like, okay, fuck this. And so,
you should have been just like, listen, I don't like mountains at all. So that
at all. Well, the problem is I do.
Those experiences,
but what I want to finish up. Let me finish up that one thought, which is that the people like were in the position you were, which is close to it, but not of it because you lived below the line, is the same as like the working humps like me in Hollywood that didn't come from, Hollywood High School or Beverly Hills High
Yeah, you
School,
didn't go to
and their
Beverly
parents
Hills
were
High.
right, didn't go to UCLA or USC film school because their parents got them in the legacy hires, whatever. And if you're not that, what they try to do in this situation, and it is a very small group, it's surprisingly small, which is why one of the things about it's a big group and you're not in it that bothers me from Carlin is that it allows for the assumption that it's everywhere, kind of deep state style, that it's gigantic. And it fucking isn't. And part of like the whole story about like Cheney looking the other way, and believe what you will, like, I don't believe that 9/11 was an inside job idea, but the idea that Cheney, made exercises go the other way or whatever, that whole story. The point of that analogy is not that Dick Cheney told all the pilots, we're crashing the towers today, go do your thing, whatever. He was able to have enough good people do their normal job and tell, because of his position of power, that they not only were they not in on it, but if they were aware of it, they would have gone like you did, fuck this, I'm out of here. And that they know that. So they need a certain window of human beings who are close enough to it, but you're not really us. And if you really want to get inside and make the big money, you got to play ball and stuff. It's the same thing the mob does, but it's not that it's a giant group. It's that they have to, they're ever consolidating. They're trying to tighten the group as small as possible, the more paranoid they get, which is why Trump really only hires sycophants and family members.
Right. Now, look, I want to be clear. The point I was making there, the reason why the big club thing makes sense to me is only in that, it's what it's what you're comparing it to. I see the big club more as something like, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, it's this huge club of people.
Sure.
It's more that it's these very important, self-important people, but in this case, people that, the ones that walk between the raindrops, the ones that never held accountable, the ones that are wealthy as hell and don't have to worry, never have to worry about it, don't live the lives that anybody normal lives. Even normal wealthy people who are millionaires, are not living the absurd lives that these people live. And to be clear, even about my statement earlier, again, I was only saying I was happy to move here where I had family, my wife's family's from, whatever. But that doesn't mean there aren't some corrupt elites here in Cincinnati. Of course there are. And it doesn't mean there aren't plenty of amazing, awesome people that I couldn't have stayed in New York and hung out with. But there is a certain thing, as you know, to New York, LA, Paris, London, places like that, where there are just these really super wealthy. I like to call them super predators because, as you remember, they tried to use that, call black men that in the 90s in a racist way. So I like to turn it on them. They're the super predators who are wealthy as hell, and they travel, from Davos to Aspen to wherever the fuck all the time. And they don't see other people as people. They see other people as objects to be manipulated. How can I make money from this? How can I get sex from this? How can I get fame from this? How can I get power from this? Like, that's the way, so that was really all I was getting. It doesn't mean like, oh my God, they're everywhere, all around you. It's like the Matrix. But there's enough of them in high positions of power that they've taken over certain institutions and they helped one of their own become president of the United States. They need to be held accountable. There needs to be accountability for them. All of them.
Agreed. And I think one of the things we should try to do, and this is why fuck Page Six and fuck TMZ, because there's no way they didn't know about Trump and Weinstein and all these, and Bill Cosby and all these assholes, and they're as guilty as those guys for helping them, basically aiding and abetting them,
enabling them. They're like Mike Johnson, basically.
Yes, right. For years. Fuck those people. It's so enraging to me that, and now, especially as they're going after, like TMZ's been going after the Epstein stuff. And it's like, these guys will only jump on it after these guys are like, they'll only go after a rapist after his dick stops working. It's so aggravating.
No,
like they don't give a.
They're doing it. We know the reasons they're doing it. I'm doing this because I just thought about that maybe what I say and what I do, first of all, maybe some people can be held accountable, but second of all, I can provide insight to help people understand and maybe prevent from being put in certain situations. Maybe go out and fight for accountability for these people. Understand that this isn't a conspiracy,
right.
but when you look at a government where you've got Donald Trump, you've got Howard Lutnick, you've got Zampoli, you've got,
you had Alex Acosta. I would argue that Pam Bondi would count.
You have JD Vance, who is owned by Peter Thiel, who shows up in the Epstein stuff a million times, and there's plenty of rumors out there on him too. I mean, you start looking at it and you start realizing these are the people in control right now, and something needs to be done about that. So I have a few areas where I can contribute, and now there's a new one. So I'm gonna do it.
That's great. All right. So blueamp.co, everybody should check that out as well. Now, back to the sort of Melania blowback. I have to say there are statements and then there are statements. There are what I felt when I saw this is like, oh, this bitch is trying to get ahead of something. Right.
Always.
Clearly.
You know your politics. You come out and you get ahead of a story. That's what
fuck Donald, I'm getting ahead of this because I'm not going to be dragged into this shit because he wanted me to be friends with her and chit chat and blah, blah, blah. And like, I didn't know what they were doing up until the point I was with Donald. And now he's going to lay it at my fucking feet because once we got married, in for a penny, in for a pound, that kind of shit. But I have to say, when she referred to it as casual correspondence in her statement, I was like, what the fuck, you stupid bitch. Like I literally was like, that did it. That for me, like, you don't do casual correspondence with a stranger, with somebody you didn't know very well. You just don't. You do casual correspondence with an acquaintance you spend a lot of time with and that you're okay with. And again,
I'm sorry. Also, I don't know all the details, but again, you look for patterns. You look for data points or whatever. How she and what these men did who owned these modeling agencies, and they weren't like ones that handled, Claudia Schiffer. They're the ones who brought in the aspiring, as you were talking about, working class kind of, often women from these countries who couldn't get in, and they knew they could take advantage of them. And I just have a hard time believing that magically she gets into this country. There's no explanation of how she stayed here. This is the exact kind of shit that Epstein was doing in Casablancas, the head of that.
Brunel, who fucking hung himself in jail too, allegedly.
What?
Brunel, Jean-Luc Brunel, who hung himself in prison allegedly for the same kind of shit.
No, exactly. I mean, if you knew this shit was going on, what these guys were doing, then you know what I mean? Like, then you sort of, there's no way that her story is the truth. I don't know the exact story. I don't know what role Epstein played in or if any, in bringing her here, keeping her here, anything else before she met Donald Trump. I just know it doesn't all add up, and there's more to it.
My thing is, and I think this is what Democrats should do once they take the House and the Senate specifically, is work with Interpol on the Epstein files and go, we need to find the Eastern European girls who were trafficked over here at this time. We need to track down all these girls who were brought over and interview them, because if there could be thousands of victims, over 1,000 victims, then we need to go find the girls and see, God damn it, if they ever made it fucking home. Because never mind the fact that they had plenty of time to dig up remains at Zorro and move them someplace else, or dump them at sea out of a fucking helicopter, or some girl.
Saw there, right? That story. I mean, the fucking the guy who literally defended Epstein ended up being made prosecutor, the federal prosecutor. The guy that I mean, there's so much dirty in all of this, and again, it always leads back to one of these people, and that's what's crucial is you need investment capital to run these kinds of disgusting businesses. I think of something like, I'm sorry to pull something out of
in lieu of talent, like Riz and a good business plan. There is not anything inherently complicated. Yeah, right.
They're bribing people. I don't know. I just think of a movie like, again, there's certain things that are not, that are played up for drama, whatever, but a movie like Taken, right? Where his daughter's grabbed in France and whatever. And I'm just making the point. There are those guys on the lower level who are doing all that shit, but it always leads to someone like, what was the guy's name? Jean St. Clair or whatever, living, some wealthy asshole living in a multi-story townhouse or whatever it is in Paris. In that case, it's the same thing in New York and LA. There's always somebody backing these kinds of things financially who is not like the lower level guys. And they all need to fucking, preferably hell, but let's start with prison.
Now, one of the upsides, I would argue, of AI is that if you need a teen model for clothing, fucking make one up. Like, you don't have to hire a girl underage for modeling ever again. Like, if
I don't even think it should be allowed. Frankly.
Right, I agree. I mean, especially for bathing suits and shit like that. Like, it's one thing to, like, if you're in a commercial for fucking back to school, or you're, those kind of things, like real kid actors really getting a chance to do a commercial or something like that to build up a tape skill, blah blah blah. Like that makes sense, right? I actually believe
slightly seductive. No fucking way.
I think every baby and every toddler in film should be AI at this point as well. Like, there is no reason to bring a child that under the age of, say, I mean, at 9 years old, I auditioned in Kentucky for the part of Tom Sawyer in a movie they were making at the time, and I didn't get it because I sounded too smart. And I don't know if that was God
damn, man. You got to start dumbing yourself down a bit.
I know. Well, that was always the problem. I have a script that I wrote in the mid 90s called Playing Dumb, about an actor who can't get any work because he's too smart and interesting. So he starts acting like he has a drug problem and acting like he can't help it and can't figure out his lines, and everybody becomes an enabler and a helper for him. And
I think you absolutely should get that script out there.
Okay.
I think of it like the spelling bee one, Bad Words with Jason Bateman.
I love that movie. It was great.
Movies. I love him in general. He's great. And so he, in my mind, that's what I picture, has that sarcastic kind of, whatever, that can pull this off.
Yes, that's right. I'll pitch it to him as a movie,
pitch
right?
And I'm sure you know him through your contacts.
I don't know him. It's funny.
I'm messing around. I don't expect that because you've been in movies and
his sister.
shows,
I think his sister appreciates our politics. So she's seen the show. His sister appreciates our politics. So she's seen the show. She's seen me on Stephanie Miller, and she's seen me on this show, I'm sure. And so, cool. Maybe that is the way. But this is like a crucial aspect of this is like part of this will start drying up. Now, that brings us to, and I appreciate you sticking over. We only got about 20 minutes. You want to ride it out?
I didn't even realize how that's how much fun I have. Although I'm going to have to admit something.
Yeah.
Which is I'm going to have to run and use a certain place.
Oh, yes. The coffee's backing up. Right.
The fairies have visited me, so I can hang. Well,
go do. More. Yeah, go do that, and then come back, and then I'll read out one of the stories that I was going to talk about. And we'll talk about. We'll end the show talking about Iran and the lack of peace talk and the ceasefire and the Strait of Hormuz blockade and all that kind of insanity. When you get back,
sounds good. I will be back, folks. Just a quick break.
Yes, right. There we go. So and his mic is not a lavalier, so we should be fine. There's the door. At least he shut the door. I think that's a good thing. And I should, what I need, CSL, is I need a long peeing sound effect that I can just play whenever Johnny leaves too. The Swallwell thing is gross and whatever, but in all honesty, like, it will play out, and if he did this, then goodbye. Again, this is not a problem Democrats have. Like, nobody is like, even the hint of it, and then the stories coming out, like, that was it. Like, we're right. I don't have a problem with that. It's the right that has a problem with, like, I don't know. Hastert seems like a nice enough guy. He's getting so much done. And if he stays on another 3 years, we'll have the longest Speaker of the House in history, right? Yeah, Eric Swallwell's been accused by, I believe the count is 4 women of either sexual assault or sexual harassment or both. And if his campaign manager has quit, Schiff pulled his endorsement. Again, innocent until proven guilty, but I don't think we're like holding our breath to not move ahead with another candidate for governor. You know, it's like when Katie Porter turned out to be mean. It's like, we're good. We got plenty of people, and this is not a cult of personality in that way. And I would argue if he's innocent and he pushes back and it all comes unravels, then he should be able to talk openly about it and blah blah blah. If he's not, then there he is. That's all right. We get it. There you go. See, that was easy. We were so lucky you closed the door. I was looking for a long peeing sound effect. I was looking maybe the one from A League of Their Own.
Gun?
No, I was going with A League of Their Own.
Naked Gun. I was going to keep my microphone on. And,
that's right. Yeah. So
no, I mean okay. Go ahead.
So
Sorry.
we talked a little bit while you were indisposed about the Swalwell thing, and basically that I'm of the mind that if he's guilty of it, goodbye, and if he's innocent, he'll have to work it out, and not in the political sphere because it's such a heavy charge and it's coming from 4 women, and we're going to have to hear them out. And I feel like that's the honorable part. And as Democrats, we don't belong to a cult of personality. So next, it's the ideas, not the person. We're not looking for a savior like the maggots are.
Right. I would look, and I was a big Swalwell fan because he seemed to be one of a dozen and a half who understand understand how to talk to Donald Trump, how to fight these guys, whatever. So I was a fan to begin with. And
well, like what's his name, the lawyer for Stormy, and you're like Avenatti,
right?
You're like what he was saying in public wasn't the problem; it was what he was doing in private. And at that point, we got plenty of people.
But again, like I ask myself the same question as everybody should, because again, the thing that separates out like the kind of these billionaire predator scumbags that we're learning all about is they treat other people like objects that are just in their way to get what they want, whether it's money, sex, this or that. They're not human. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to Swalwell, like I think to myself, that's somebody's daughter.
Right.
And so I also years, and we had at least 2 people we freed that were framed for rape, and didn't do it. So here's what I'll say. I mean, I'll still give my personal link. Personally, the evidence seems to be overwhelming. It's not just 4 women. There are corroborating witnesses, medical reports, contemporary witnesses. There seems to be so much against him that from just an objective point of view, he absolutely needs to get the hell out of the governor's race, and he needs to resign from Congress and needs to go and spend some time in figuring all this stuff out and fixing it. But I will, and he needs to spend time, frankly, being held responsible,
prosecuted,
and prosecuted. And if he did it, he needs to go to jail for the rest of his fucking life, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that one part of me that was on that, saw people that were put in prison who didn't commit crimes and what happened to them. Yes, he needs to be given a free and fair trial, and all of that with a jury that comes in and doesn't have assumptions. And as best we can do that in our system, because that is our system. That is what we do.
Also,
that is what we should do if we have a Truth and Reconciliation Committee to Donald Trump and anybody else. We should get a fair trial the way Herman Goering, of all fucking people, got a fair trial.
Right.
That was what we're supposed to do.
And the best legal representation they can possibly get, because we don't want them getting out on a technicality in a few years. And having it all expunged effectively and them being able to yell exonerated because they didn't have proper, they could claim they didn't get proper representation. And this is my point to like, when people get upset at the lawyers for awful people, I'm like, no, you really do need those people to try every trick in the book, do everything they possibly can, try to get the trial dismissed, try to get evidence thrown out, all the stuff that a lawyer is supposed to do, so that when they get convicted, they can't go, my lawyer, I gave him a bunch of ideas and he wouldn't take them, Your Honor, and therefore I deserve another trial, and since everybody thinks of me as guilty now, I can't get a fair trial, and
Right.
therefore I can never be treated. It's like
But
fucking.
you know what else?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I sorry. I keep feeling like I just
We have a
I don't
lot
want
to
to
talk
cut
about.
you
You and
off.
I are both. No, you and I are both off. From the same sort of speaking genetic pool. We'll
Yeah,
filibuster
we just
because we care. So knock yourself out. I have no problem.
I'll just say quickly, people need to get a fair trial because they need to get a fair trial because that's our system.
Yes.
And so many people out there do not. Some people who did end up in prison, who were innocent, who I saw come through here, it's because they got a public defender who was overworked, underpaid. We didn't put any resources into it. If we took, the Sixth Amendment, whatever, we took it seriously, we would make sure that everybody had competent, intelligent, legal representation, and they all should, no matter what. I don't care how rich, poor, or
Mhm.
anything in between. Also, no matter how guilty you seem like you are, I will always, always, always take it back because I remember that Trump's people started doing this, going after people like, oh, you defended some of the 9/11 perpetrators, or this and that. Well, again, everyone should know, and I'm sure some people do who know this stuff. John Adams defended the British soldiers that shot and killed. I guess we were sort of Americans at that point in the Boston Massacre, because his belief was everyone deserved to have a fair trial if
Right.
the system was going to work. That is my belief too.
I agree.
So
Because that's
Swalwell
you
should get a fair
defending.
trial.
That's defending your country and your ethics and your morals, not the person. You don't let
Exactly right.
how
You're
awful the
defending the
person is.
system.
Right. You don't throw
So to me,
the system
yeah,
out
I think
for an awful person because you've actually done more damage than that person did.
right. So looking at everything that's come out so far, at least, Swalwell seems guilty as hell. I'm disgusted by it. He should get the hell out of public life, and he should have to stand up and defend what he did or claims he didn't do. And I am going to very much be in the camp of assuming he did all of it or most of it, and it doesn't matter. I'm not a juror,
Right.
and I'm a political analyst, and and assuming that's all correct. And again,
Mhm.
not just the people that have all come out and spoken. I know people that worked on the Hill, and this was spoken about by people knew, and I didn't. I never worked on the Hill, so
Right.
this was a complete shock to me.
Right.
But there are people that knew, and again, like enough with men
Yeah.
doing this shit. Fuck
Right.
him, fuck them. Enough of this bullshit.
Right.
I said the other day, and there's somebody got mad at me like, you're a I don't know if I was called, maybe the first time in my life was I called a genderist or something like that. I'm not sure, but I was like, listen, I can find you sexual. What I can't stand is in this country, sometimes people on the left will be like, white men, blah 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 blah. Well, maybe white men for the most part in this country because this is a largely white country. But I'm sorry, like Genghis Khan wasn't a white dude. Idi Amin wasn't a white dude.
Right.
MBS ain't a white
Boko
dude.
Haram isn't run
Right.
by white
Boko
dudes.
Haram isn't. The sad thing is the connection is men.
Mhm.
It's 99% us. If you want to find a common strand, it's not race, and it's not
Right.
class, and it's not whatever. It is gender. It is men. And so therefore we
It's
need to be
well, I
calling
would
out other
argue
men and
it's
stopping this
sex.
shit.
It's sex. It's
What?
biology. Because again, we played with the word, that gender is more of a descriptive, not a definitive, and
Okay, yeah.
sex is the definitive
Let's
biological
say it's
sex.
It's men
Right.
and it's sex. And I'm sorry, just because you're attracted to somebody, just because you're whatever, fucking control yourself.
Yeah.
That's what most
Even
human beings do.
in the case of the violence perpetrated by trans people that Wright brings up all the time, still nearly 100% trans women who were biologically male or may still be, and again, I consider those people autogynephiliacs. I don't think they're really trans. That's another thing entirely. You don't get to piggyback on the top of trans people and make it their problem. Right. But again, a biological male who's like, shit, I can just dress up, put a dress on. Nobody can stop me because of the gray areas in the law now. And I can do whatever the fuck I want and get away with it. And then they find out they can't. And then they go, I want to go to a women's prison, which happened in England and isn't happening here, thank God. But they've walked that back in the UK and in a lot of the Northern Europe.
We need to say things that are true. And I'm sorry if it doesn't fit conveniently, politically sometimes, but I don't make generalizations unless there are generalizations that need to be made. So I wouldn't make a
Well,
generalization.
here's the other thing.
But on this issue, it's very clear that you get a Ghislaine Maxwell here and there. You get a few of those.
Leslie Groft.
99 out of every
Right.
100 are men. That's the facts.
Right. Well, and again, the majority of rapists are men, but the majority of men aren't rapists. And that's a clear distinction that I think is where that bristle comes from. And that most rapists, look at the Epsteins of the world, look at the Bill Cosbys, they don't have a single victim. They have dozens in the hundreds.
The cockroach rule in New York, where you see one, there's 100. The
Mm-hmm.
recidivism with these people, they have patterns. They have they're doing this stuff. Yeah, you're not going to find somebody unless you happen to capture them after their first one who's only done one.
I will push back on. There was a book about sort of the psychology of rape, and it caught a lot of hell because the prevailing mythology around rape is that it is, quote, about power and just that. When I would argue that domestic violence, physical violence towards women is about power. Sexual assault is a sexual act. That it is not just about power. That it is about the power. Well, I think it's about
I'm not an expert, but I think
nobody gets a power boner. It doesn't work that way. And the people that take this, there are very few, if any, rapists who are, except the Trumps of the world, who are taking Viagra to complete the act just because they think the woman deserves to be humiliated. That's very rare. And the majority of it is, quite frankly, the power to, you have something I want, and you should not have the power to deny me that. That's where the power part comes in. But it is a sexual act. And it is based in testosterone.
I didn't disagree with you. I just said I believe there's a power component to it too. I think there's both.
Right. But I would say it is primarily a sexual act. Because again, there are men who just stab women who look like their mom and that kind of stuff. Right. That I would say is about power. And there is and we will always be behind the 8 ball trying to catch these guys if we think of them only in those terms, because you will look for powerless. This is why they didn't catch a lot of normalized rapists like Ed Kemper. Why they didn't? Because these guys shouldn't be powerless. They've got plenty of power. They're doing just fine, right? They don't need they don't need to express their power. They get it anyways. And I would argue that Swallwell, interestingly enough, and again, this is on an assumption that this is true, which as a case,
that it's true. We have to,
as a case in court of law, right? As a case in point of this, that it has to be to some degree about the exertion of your worth over someone else's worth, which would be another definition of the power part of it.
See, that's
because when you look,
the power comes into a certain degree. Is that
that I'm always amazed as someone who's been on television and who's I would argue cute.
I've been on television too, just nothing nearly as cool as you've done.
Well, no, what I'm saying is but is cute, but no Brad Pitt in that regard.
Like, hey, MSNBC daytime. It's
right. But let me tell you, it doesn't take much to attract sexually active, smart women who own their sexuality and want to have sex with someone they're attracted to on an even level. There's plenty of women out there like that. If you're in a position of power, or they just know you because they've seen you on television and they think they know you, all those kind of things that Swalwell himself would be a beneficiary of. He's a handsome dude.
That's a great
it makes
point,
no sense to me.
It's amazing to me, in the same way
that you would ever have to take it, right? It's fucking weird.
I was never on a TV show in the manner in which you were. I would go on back in the day, the MSNBCs and CNNs and things like that. And it would just be amazing how here and there people recognize you and wanted to talk to you and wanted to do this and that. And so, my God, if you're someone like Swalwell who practically lived on TV,
right?
I mean, it should have been, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck, again, what the fuck's wrong with some of these people? I don't know.
So I honestly, I don't get it, because my friend Dan, who was early one of my best gay friends. He was one of the guys who came up with the Second City. He was the pizza boy in Home Alone. if you'll recall that scene. And
I do
that
actually. I had to
scene,
think about that for a second. So,
that
did you get to
scene.
meet Donald Trump?
No, that was
Kidding. That was in
2.
Home Alone
Yeah,
2. I
right.
know.
He, Dan, that scene paid his rent yearly for a long time. It was really, because of
God,
the.
I can imagine in syndication. That
Oh
must have been
dear
fucking
God. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And every Thanksgiving, because it was going to become the Thanksgiving movie and all this stuff. Anyways, he like at one point in the 90s, when I was I like my girlfriend at the time had just left, and he's like, I don't get it. And I was like, what? He goes, you just always have these pretty girlfriends. And I was like, fuck you.
I know that's not nice. You should
I
be like,
know.
"Oh,
I know. And I was like, charm? I'm fit? What else? What are you talking about? You mean because I'm poor? Is that it, you fucker? And
I mean,
and
look at your cool hair. Like I mean,
and
come
my
on.
hair was longer then. Like it was like I sat on it frequently. That's how
Jesus.
long my hair was during that period
You
of
must have
time.
cut your hair for some of the roles you played on.
I did.
Or-
I auditioned for Talk Soup for 5 years and didn't get it till I actually cut my hair. I was like, I'll cut it if you hire me, but they're like, nah. And then I finally cut it, and they were like, you're in.
like,
I was like, Jesus
you could have
Christ.
said to them, "All right, it's your fucking fault. I'm letting my hair grow forever unless you hire me."
That's
It's gonna
right.
be
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah, I'm going to walk around looking like one of the women from the Thule Society during the Nazi era.
Or like the
Cousin
girl
It.
from The Ring.
Right,
Look
yes,
like
right.
her, and it's fucking
Soaking
on you.
wet.
Exactly.
So
climb out of fucking like wellness places. Yeah.
the point I'm trying to make is that there are men who look like toadstools who, once they become famous and well known, right, get they end up marrying Julia Roberts or something like that, and you're like, what? Right? But hey, it's not because they're in a position of fame and power that the woman flocked to that. Because if they showed up and the guy was a dick or they didn't like him or whatever, they'd probably leave. And maybe that's the case. Maybe they were like, oh my God, he's so handsome and smart and I love him on TV. And then they meet you in person. You're like, ugh. Maybe that was what the issue is, right? Breath, BO,
I have no idea,
attitude,
like-
who knows? But yeah,
I
Crystal
just know
Gale.
that
Everybody says I would look like
can't
Crystal Gale. I think you're right.
There's like there's stuff that I can't know because I'm not a psychotherapist and that kind of thing. All I know is when I see some of the like, especially these particularly risky, over the top behaviors by men who are public figures by choice,
Mhm.
and it crosses my mind again and again. The first part, what you said, which is really, it shouldn't be hard for you to meet women. So what the
Right.
fuck's wrong with you? But the second part, but also is just like it makes what is what is the common thing that what is wrong with these people that they're able to, especially the ones who claim to purport to be liberal, can
Well-
objectify people to the point of where, again, they're just objects to be done with whatever you'll do with them. Like,
Right.
there's no empathy.
I've said many times, like there are situations where anybody can misread somebody's signals and go, "Oh, I'm sorry,
Sure.
I thought you were down to you were DTF and you aren't. My bad. I thought we were flirting. Misread or whatever. I apologize. That's on me. Nice to meet you. We won't be in the same room together alone ever again." That's pretty much what you do. It
Right.
doesn't take much. It really doesn't. However, I'm also speaking as someone who has never consumed alcohol and never been drunk in my life. And one of the videos, or apparently that's coming out of Swallwell, is him drunk mashing some woman after they were all out drinking or something like that. This is not
I
excusing
saw
behavior.
one that was
As a
like
matter of
that,
fact,
but the bigger problem, I think, also, and again, we do. I have to go. At some
I know
point
you got to
because,
go. It's 11.
As
Yeah,
much as I love you, and I would talk to you all day,
you're right.
yeah, I did some of that drinking in college, and I don't think things were different in the time in the '90s when I was in college. I did anything that I don't think anybody else wasn't wanting to do. I wasn't the kind of person that I am,
Right.
and it isn't. But I'm sure I made some poor decisions and said some stupid shit and stuff like that. The issue is, Swalwell's like, what, in his early 40s? What the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Why are you putting yourself in that position now? When I was a stupid 18-year-old and 19-year-old, it's one thing. And I'm not even justifying that. in
Right.
retrospect.
Yeah.
But why are you putting yourself in position? I'm not talking about actual rape, but where you would even call somebody inappropriately, say something
Right.
inappropriate to
Right.
somebody. Like, why would you put yourself in that position when
Yeah.
you're in your I just don't understand. Like, just
I
stop.
right.
Stop the fucking drinking. Stop
Right.
the bullshit.
Right. I mean,
I
again,
barely drink anymore, you know?
like
Like, I have a beer
people.
here and there or tequila here and there. That's what I
Yeah,
do.
I also think there's a special place in hell for the roofie gang, which, like, again, that's one of those prison sentences that is far too short
Oh,
because
I mean,
it
you're
is
roofing somebody like that's to me, how does that not show complete intent?
right.
And how are you not fucking being locked up forever?
Right, agreed. And how long before someone dies from it, or you intentionally get rid of someone by she's waking up, like that kind of stuff just reeks. And you're like, no,
Right.
I think as a judge or a jury member, you'd be like, nah, this guy's got to go away for the long goodbye. He's got to stay in
Yep.
jail for decades. But that's my own personal thing with that. Again, I'm a big fan of cinder block at the end of a piece of chain for a lot of these guys, but just
I understand
that's my impulse.
that
That's
side of me that would like to do that fights with the side that wants to
yes, right.
have due
Well,
process and whatever.
again, that's the in the moment, live red-handed person to person. There are no cops to call. This is a thing that's happening right in front of me moment. And so it's why I carry around a cinder block linked to a piece of chain in the back of my car at all times, just
I
in
noticed
case.
that about you when I saw
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
But
If you ever see it, I've thought about going with a true Mjolnir, like getting a Mjolnir actually made, like a big hammer.
that'd be so cool.
It
Yeah,
would be
I know
very
what you're
cool.
talking about. I'm
Yeah.
a Avengers
And
kind of guy.
just because I want somebody to go, Exhibit A, sir, we'd love to bring it in, but he's the only guy who can lift it.
That would be cool.
Point-
Although, if I showed up and it flew into my hand, and then you'd have to admit I was worthy, that'd be a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you are, so I have no worries about that. I will say though that I'm pretty much guaranteeing that I will never be picked for jury duty on a case like this because of this stance. There's just no fucking way.
Yeah, it's hard to hide that. And
yeah. You can tell.
look, I want to say one more thing, and
and you got to go. All right.
What I think is really important to remember here is this can be any men, any whatever.
Mhm.
Like Harvey Weinstein supported Democratic causes. Bill Gates, seemingly relatively liberal. Bill Richardson, liberal governor of New Mexico, and all that. But I think, again, and I'm not making this about Democrat versus Republican. I'm making it about liberal versus conservative. I think it is important to take a look at the people and remind yourself that the vast majority of the ones engaged in this behavior are the ones you would expect to be engaged in this behavior, who have no compassion for anybody else, who have only ever tried to acquire as many resources as they can in their life as a part of power, and to subjugate others and destroy others. And there's a reason why so many of the people who are on that list, you start looking through them, are all, of course, right-wing fucking assholes. And there will always be Swallwells and people like that too. But don't lose sight of, and don't let the other side fucking try to pretend that, like,
opportunistic infections. Right. They happen, and you've got to guard, against them. You've got to be okay with the guardrails against those kind of things. You just have to. And it's okay. It is okay to have a standard and stick to it. And it's also important that your standard doesn't eat anybody that doesn't live up to that standard because you're afraid of whatever. Al Franken is a good example of that. I
think he got railroaded, and I agree. He's a comedian, and he was doing comedian-like stuff.
About a woman who had groped the country singer on stage, and that's what they were discussing
with Sean Hannity.
Right.
That whole thing was a setup and bullshit, and to this day.
Right. Agreed. So,
all right.
You're awesome. Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate you staying late and coming early.
I would stay longer, but I actually do have to pay my taxes, and I have to send stuff to my accountant, so I probably should do that.
Right. Good idea. So blueamp.co, please everybody subscribe to the Substack there. Eventually the YouTube page will be a Blue Amp as well, but it is currently Cliffs_Edge. So you can find that on there.
Edge.
Just look on YouTube.
It's called, yeah. Yep, perfect. And you'll see Blue Amp Media up there. It's being rebranded, but the URL is still at Cliffs_Edge. So
great. Awesome. Thank you, brother. Yeah, absolutely. Whoops, I just swipe this over so I can actually hear. And I will see you hopefully in person, sometime this summer. I'm coming out for my dad's funeral in June. So I'll be within driving distance for a little bit. So we will get together around that time. So I appreciate you, brother.
Sounds like a plan.
Yep. And thanks again for all your kind words when we got to hang out while I was there during that. I really appreciate it again.
My pleasure. And I'm sorry. I'll apologize. I should have called you, but I actually shouldn't have. I couldn't. I went out to the West Coast because my younger son was looking at some schools, some colleges. So I was in LA for a bit, mostly more San Diego and whatever.
Understood.
But we had no time. It was spring break and we were running from,
It's okay. My kid was here for spring break. I completely understand. So much love, my brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And I'll see you soon.
All right. Take care, buddy. Thanks
there you go. Yep, absolutely. Cliff Schechter, everybody. And a fiery philosophical conversation that was necessary to be had about everything. My audio cuts in and out. I hope not. It might have been a button I accidentally pushed earlier. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. So there we go. It's there's always an issue. It wouldn't be my show if there weren't, that's the important thing. So, and I'll let this go. There we go. And, yep. Love Cliff. Agreed. Chat room. Thanks, Cliff, says 1960 demo. My dad looks like Butch Cassidy in that picture. Well, that's very nice. He's actually, holding a giant snake that he found in the grass. And this is a t-shirt. It's on my site. I don't think it's for sale. I think it's on. I just made it for myself. It says, where do you want it at the bottom? Which is something my dad would say. My dad's favorite thing was to hold a knife, like a folding knife like that. And then close it. When you weren't looking and go, here, hold my knife like this, like he was going to poke you in the belly with it. That was funny. That was one of his running gags. So like, here, hold my knife. And it worked a lot. There's one trick when I was a kid, which is my dad would go, you want to hear a funny noise? And he'd go, my cousin Jerome and I would go, yeah. And he'd go, put your nose in here. And I was little. I did it once. Jerome did it 3 times, I think. Bless his heart. Hal, you should run for California governor. Yeah, except I live in Nevada now, officially. So that's one of the things. Although, I'd rather kind of move to Chicago and run for mayor there after the current mayor runs out his term. That might be a thing. But, president first. We'll go for that next time. But last time I held a snake, it bit me. Well, congratulations. I hope you weren't at a Bible, like a Baptist revival meeting, and they were like, we'll know who the sinners are. Here, hold this. Jerome is very smart, and he's an amazing classical guitarist, by the way. We got smart in our family by and large as a defense mechanism. Because I do think intelligence might be to some degree nature, but I think it's a lot degree nurture. I think how you raise your kids and where you put their attention has more to do with whether they're smart or not than, whether they were born with good genes. My uncle was at MIT, that shit, right? My dad, I think some of you know this. I could swear in my household, which should be clear to everyone. I was allowed to say any curse word I wanted, but I could not say, I don't know. If I said, I don't know, my dad would take his knuckle like this and bop me on the top of the head really hard. Like real, like bunk, like you'd feel it, And It wasn't because you weren't allowed to not know something. It was that your answer shouldn't be, I don't know. It should be, I'll find out. You could go, I think it's, you could use, your reasoning capabilities and go, I think it's this, but I can find out. Or you could, and by the way, if you said, I'll find out, you had to leave immediately to go find out. Or you could bullshit. It was completely okay to just make up something because at a certain age, it was just creativity. You were being creative. At least it showed that you could get yourself out of a problem. You could talk your way out of something, which is a skill in and of itself, ladies and gentlemen. And eventually, the ability to bullshit mixed with actually having the answers. That's really what a great orator is. Somebody who is great at bullshitting, but actually has the information now and can speak fearlessly is kind of the top of the line, right? In human orators in the world. Yeah. Hal, you're a fascinating specimen. Thank you. Somebody suggested earlier in the chat, I didn't see who it was, it went by too fast, that I should try mushrooms. I'm not doing mushrooms. I'm not doing ayahuasca. I'm not doing any fucking, poisonous plants that make you feel loopy. I'm not. Knock yourself out. I'm not recommending it, but if you're going to do it, I'm not going to stop you because it's none of my goddamn business. But just consider me the control to the experiment that you are conducting on yourself. Okay? And tell you what, when we both reach the other side, we'll check back in and see who lived an interesting, fun-filled, curious, philosophical, artistic life. Okay? Because I'm not really having a problem. I'm fucking weird enough. Right. That's right. Crazy, insane. Yeah, no. I have enough nutty thoughts. Thank you. Like, I probably don't tell you guys. I know I don't. I've discussed things philosophically on this show very openly, I would say. Right? How will be everyone's trip sit? That's right. I'll just sit there with the fucking Narcan checking your pulse. I'm good, right? And I just don't want to be, a variant of my own cognitive ability that came from somewhere outside of myself. I have no interest in that. I would rather meditate on an idea to its ad infinitum, ad absurdum levels, allow myself to sit in that space and feel my cells expand to the outside of the world and then out into the universe and those kind of meditations or whatever. Just fine. As a matter of fact, there are so many things that people on major substances, I won't say chemicals, but substances have described their experience to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've had that. I've experienced that. You know why? Because I chose to. I just did it. Shit, you guys think I could speak as mockingly and comedically about the world the way I do without believing that we're all one and that there's a reflection of us in everyone else, and that part of the lesson of seeing someone else who's awful is to tie off the limbs of that bonsai tree that exists in your personality and in your soul, because it does, and letting it die because you don't want to have it in you. Right? It's, you guys know I have that kind of like, what if I was, what if I was evil experiment that I do every so often, especially when there's something strategically happening in the world, like the Iran war or other things where people are like, why in the fuck? And I'm like, okay, if I was in their position with their history, this is why. It's not unlike, I would presume, what investigators go through, what, certainly people who write, horror stories and that kind of thing, where they have to go to understand. And by the way, this still points to my annoyance at actors who go playing villains is the most fun. Villains are the most fun to play, all that bullshit. To those actors, I will say without reservation, if you can say that, you have never played a real villain. You have veneered a caricature over yourself and played around in a sandbox of someone's lines and made funny faces. But if you really played that villain, it would make you ill for a very long time. Period. That's just and again, this is also, you guys know what bullshit I think method acting is. Keep your accent during the entire production. That's not method acting. That's just practicing the way of speaking. For fuck's sake, if you're going to play an Irishman in a movie, fucking talk like this the entire fucking production. Every fucking phone call, when you call your agent or whatever the fuck you're doing, just keep it. Because the more you do it, the more natural it sounds, right? It reminds me that the Brad Pitt, Harrison Ford movie that they were doing where Brad Pitt was like a young IRA terrorist. And Harrison Ford goes, you've been working on your Irish accent? And he goes, I've been working on it a little bit on the weekends. And Ford said, let's hear some of it. Yeah, the Devil's Own. Let's hear some of it. What a fucking dig. You know he just had that in his fucking pocket. It's easy to be an actor. It's easy pretending to be yourself. Just try to find out who you are. Well, no, it isn't. It's exhausting depending on what you're playing. Right? If you're playing something that's uplifting and interesting and curious and exciting and frightening, and you've got that and you can carry it around yourself, there's an adventure to it, like riding a fucking roller coaster or something like that, right? But again, I've told you guys the story of, some of the scenes I had to do for Queer as Folk that were heartbreaking and painful, and doing those 27 times in a row, not healthy. Yeah, not good for your mental state. And you got to do a lot of work to clean that garbage out afterwards, because your nervous system and your endocrine system and your fucking cortisol and your adrenaline have no idea that you're fucking around. It thinks you're really in distress, and it will imprint in your cells if you're not careful. So that's why sitcoms fucking rule. As Angel Parker, my dear beloved wife on Lab Rats, says, they're cush. It was a very cush job to have, and she's absolutely right. Then you're okay. Yeah. Well, I am, because I did the work. Isn't it exhausting being Hal Sparks? No, because it's not a character I play. I definitely am performing when I do the show, if that makes sense. I'm definitely aware of the need for performance because it's a fucking show, right? But I'm not pretending. I'm just, amping myself up for it sometimes, because of what I want to accomplish with the show and convey a message and that kind of stuff. But I'm not bullshitting. That's different, right? It's like you might be in a shitty mood and feel like swearing, but you're visiting your grandmother, so you hold it back. That's not lying. That's just being polite, right? It's recognizing where you are, right? You had us fooled on QAF. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That wasn't the goal. The goal wasn't to fool you. The goal was to give life to Michael Novotny, which I think I did. And some people will perceive that as being fooled on that, right? On that front. And how are you, good human being? I do my best. But one of the ways you are a good human being is that I don't believe in this bullshit Jungian shadow work nonsense. But when you see awful in the world, trying to understand it, if not from an emotional standpoint, because that ends up being an excuse, but from a strategic standpoint, getting your needs met. That's why I don't buy like this. In a lot of cases, when murderers attempt to use, insanity or temporary insanity, because if you can manage to cross the street without being hit by a car on your way to kill somebody, you have enough awareness to recognize the threat to your own life and the world that you are in. Right? Does that make sense? If you have all those other awarenesses, except I just didn't know it was wrong to stab her 75 times, like bullshit. Bullshit. You just thought that was the way to get your needs met. Love watching Christopher Titus. Yeah, he gets wound up in a way I don't. Seriously. Like, bless his heart. I love Chris Titus, but he is a he is a jolly cynic. Albert, you are a character. Well, thanks. Yeah, that's how I would describe him. I would describe Titus as the jolly cynic. Because if you were a true cynic, you wouldn't even bother to show up. Again, this goes to like David Icke and why I think he's full of shit, is because the picture on the back of his books looks like he's a third grade portrait where he's like on a fence with an apple, like, and it goes a photo of the author, when in reality, if you believed what was in his books, the only picture they could get of you would look like Ray Finkel's dad, with like a split, just your eye through a door and a shotgun barrel sticking out. Like, get the fuck off my property. The lizard people are here, right? I always take that into account. It's the same thing with Alex Jones. Like, they're trying to get rid of me. They've been trying to get rid of me for a long time. Like, bullshit, motherfucker. Then either they don't exist or they're incompetent, so I don't even know why I'm worrying about them. Yes, we love Titus. We do. I'd love to have Titus back on. He's welcome anytime. I still need to go on and do his show, but I think I'm too jolly for him. I think I'm too happy clappy. Yeah, that's, yes, I was in Tack and the Power of Juju. Thank you very much. I love Titus when he rants going stage left. Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got a fucking machine over there. It's really impressive. Helps me laugh. Jesus fucking Christ, we need a laugh. Absolutely. I agree. I think some of the greatest art has happened during the worst times in the world. And part of it is this active hope. Hungarian should send flowers to JD Vance. I think that would be so fucking hilarious. Like, we should send flowers to JD Vance going, from the Hungarians. Thanks for getting us over the top. I love your new single. Thank you so much. I'm very proud of it. And I'm working on a bunch of new stuff. Again, the step up in technology has allowed me to finish songs that I could only do if I could get everybody together and on the same page, and a producer and a mixer and a masterer that does that. And yet I can still put myself truly in the songs. And that's a great thing. You could tell how like kind of tired my voice is a little bit right now, because I was singing. I figured out how I can sing all the notes in Queensryche's Take Hold of the Flame. And I was like, oh, that's where it is. And it was a big moment yesterday. And I probably overdid it. I probably should have gone, okay, I did it 3 times. I should, and I was like, and if you don't know that song, watch the live version. I think it's from Tokyo. What AI are you using to make your recordings? In Logic, I use a stem splitter from old songs that I have. And then I use Suno to make some key stuff, like key lines for or strings, or like if I've just got a rudimentary drum track that I recorded something to just a loop, I'll have it make drums to that. And then I'll take it back in. It's a process. Apparently there's this thing, Ace Studio, which is half DAW, digital audio workstation, and half AI tool, and I think that's better. So I'm kind of shifting my workflow to that, because I take the stems into Logic, and then I can sing, and then I can put them back in and use the mastering part. And then it kind of does a wash over the whole thing, which is nice, which is what you would send it off to, like these $1 million master guys. And I've got plugins that do mastering, and they're pretty good. But I could basically study for a year, like mastering, and still my shit would not turn out like a real record producer. So where do I see myself in 5 years? I don't know, healthier and more handsome. I mean, I'm going to run for president. I know I'm a dark horse candidate, but if Marianne Williamson runs again, I have to be standing on stage next to her going, um, um uh, because I used to work for her. Long time ago. Long time ago. Thank you, Crazy Insane Alien. I appreciate that. Blue Marble is also on Pandora. Yes, it is. It should. I'm using DistroKid to distribute my stuff. I used to use TuneCore, but literally, I was like, it's been a while. I still have my account on TuneCore. That's what keeps the other 01 records up. But I literally was like, what are the kids using? And so I started doing a big, I was like, I'm Google searching. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? So I went and I asked ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity, and they all agreed DistroKid was the even though they upsell you on a lot of shit, it was the best way to do it. And it was what the sales point was is that in Apple Music and when it comes out, you can program the lyrics in. So it was so fun. I've never done this before, but in the lyrics area, you can the song plays and then you hold down your space bar on each line and then you take it off when in between the lines, and then when the next line comes up you hold your space bar and then you take it off, and then by the end of the song, when you look on the lyric thing that's on Apple Music or whatever, it'll play line by line. I was like, this is fucking great. When can we listen to This Is Some Bullshit on music streaming services? It is up on the SoundCloud now, which is Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Look up that on SoundCloud and you should see it. I have wrong a song. You've written a song. You've written a wrong song. I've wrong a song. We've all wrong a song. That's what you do. You write for the wastebasket. I've written a lot of songs that are never going to come out. That's just how it is. You write a bunch of things. You're like, ugh, I couldn't get this one out. Or I'll write a song and I'll, in some cases that I've had for a long time that was in the old key that I sang in a long time ago before my voice was better. And so I know singing it again will damage my voice. So I'm rewriting a bunch of tracks so that I can sing higher, interestingly enough, because my voice is healthier in that space. I was writing in a key that I thought I should be writing in instead of the one that really fits me. I was actually written a song too. Oh, excellent. Somebody wrong song. My uncle wrote a song called Nobody Special that my dad tracked, that my dad recorded on his album. And he's on there. Vince Gill performs on it with him, and it's really fascinating. It's like my Uncle Philip, like, God love him. Do I copyright my songs? Yes, I do. Of course, I'm with BMI, so that's what I do. That said, Nobody Special. My uncle is the only person who could have written a chorus like, I'm nobody special, to nobody special, I'm sitting alone, can't you see? I'm nobody special, to nobody special, won't you be special to me? Like that's a great line. That's a fucking great lyric. That's a song where you can just like write it one and done it and just walk away, which is basically what he did. So my dad recorded that song. And I think Vince Gill sings the high harmony on it. By the way, Vince Gill's birthday was this weekend, so happy birthday, Vince. And Sam Bush's birthday is today. So happy birthday, Sam Bush. And thanks. I love my voice too. I didn't used to. Took a while. You know why I didn't like it? Hal should be the next John Denver. No, because I'm getting my pilot's license. No. The name of the song is Nobody Special. Yeah. And yeah, if I learned anything from Prince, I was never going to get a fucking record deal in the traditional sense anyways. I wrote that ship sailed a long time ago. And even now I could, but it don't need one. That's the amazing thing about the time we live in. It's a beautiful thing. And let's see. Let's see. I don't know if it'll be. Yeah. This is an article about my dad, since I'm wearing a shirt today. That's him in his shop. Bluegrass Renaissance man. Kentucky's Harry Sparks is architect to string instruments and a building that houses them. This is his shop. There's his Red Man Chewing Tobacco sign he's had since I was fucking 4. Yeah, that's a different banjo. He's working on that for somebody else. I was about to say that banjo is in the other room, but it isn't. Peruse any story about bluegrass greats Sam Bush, J.D. Crowe, Vince Gill, and odds are you'll find mentions of Sparks, or Sparky, as he's well known among talented circle of bluegrass artists, who praise his wizardry as a repairman. There he is. So, anyways, it's here's Chris Douglas. And there's my dad. There's Vince Gill. There's Harry Bickle. And that's Doc Hamilton. Right here. Sorry. This is them recording that song. So, yep, there they are. They went and tracked it in the studio. There's Vince. There's Doc, and that's Harry Bickle. Sorry, whoops, it's not on there. There you go. That's my dad right there. And Harry sitting right there in the middle. Harry gave me my first electric guitar. It's a Sears Harmony guitar. Yep, this is the original Buzzard Rock String Band. That was their name. Yeah, and yeah, that's the album the Buzzard Rock String Band put out. There you go. And this is the original picture of these guys, Doc and Harry and my dad. Harry. That's why they called him Sparky, because Harry Bickle was always around. So Harry was Harry, my dad was Sparky, and Doc was Doc. And there they are in 1977 when I was 7 years old. Only difference is my dad has a pipe in his mouth. But pretty much, not much has changed. Yep. It's on CD, baby, if you want to pick it up. And then, let's see, do they have a track playing on it? Hold on. Oh, God. I don't want to do it. Where are you? Yeah, this is it might be on YouTube, maybe. Hold on. I know I'm supposed to be over, but you guys can split if you want to. I'm just hanging out for the time being because I feel like it. There you go.
And Philip is here tonight, and he wrote a song called Nobody Special while he was working, and he's not your average hillbilly. He was working on a doctorate in comparative literature at the time. He scratched this down, so it doesn't have anything about trains in it, doesn't have any wrecked trucks, anything, but it's still, I think, a lovely song. It does have the most important ingredient in a country song, and that's being lonely. It's called Nobody Special. We named the album for that song.
I'm gonna start crying.
No
Yeah, you can boo me.